back in Konoha. Naruto's eyes were pierced with light as the sun peeked into his bedroom. His ocean blue eyes shot open as he shoved the covers off him. Unfortunately, he trapped over his feet, causing him to crash into his door with a yelp. The blonde stared at the clock, noticing the 8:15 in big bold numbers. Crap! The blonde-haired boy rushed to the bathroom and pulled on a random pair of orange khakis and his favorite orange shirt as he brushed his teeth. He felt himself choke on the toothpaste as he eyed the clock. Grabbing his blue hitayate and a banana, he rushed out the door, forgetting two major things: his shoes and Gamachan. Crap! The academy gates were closing, and Naruto could have sworn the gatekeepers began closing them even faster when they noticed him running towards the gates. In a desperate mad dash, he accidentally stepped on a random Chunin's head and flipped himself over the wall. If anyone had walked by, they probably would have described Naruto as a midget orange flash. 8:25. Naruto moved past everyone in an orange blur. He gave a yelp when he tripped over a certain Nara. Said Nara only raised an eyebrow and smoothed out his pineapple hairstyle and gave Naruto the evil lazy eye before dozing off again. Naruto yelled a few choice words to the sleeping boy and took a seat in the far back next to Shino. Outside in the hallway, Iruka walked past the other classrooms, feeling the package in his hands grow even heavier. Could he do it? Could he send these children out on the battlefield or send them on their way to become mindless killers? Would he be able to sleep at night knowing these children were being turned into mini versions of their sensei Kakashi? It was clear that this was not Iruka's favorite. This wasn't his first year as an academy teacher. But that didn't mean that it was any easier. He passed kids who he thought would survive long after him when they died some months later after graduating. He took a moment to stand outside the door, weighing the package in his hands before gathering himself for a minute. He felt his hand turning the knob and sealing the fates of the children and himself inside. Inside the classroom, unlike the gloomy Iruka, Naruto could not wait for his team assignment. Shino compared the Bond prankster to a 5-year-old child high off 6 bottles of Coke with a dash of sake mixed in. The moment Iruka walked in, Shino sworn that Naruto's face went still and those blue eyes softened and mellowed for a second. But Naruto flashed Shino that foxy grin of his when he noticed him staring. "Good luck, Shino-san," Naruto said. "Good luck to you as well, Uzumaki-san." Down in the front, Iruka mused to himself, watching each face before reading off the team assignments. They listen for the team assignments but not for my lectures. He mused to himself. Taking deep breath, he began reading off the teams. Team 1. Team 7 will be Sakura Haruno, Kiba Inuzuka, and Sasuke Uchiha. Your sensei will be Kakashi Hatake. Team 8 will be Naruto Uzumaki, Shino Aburame, and Shikamaru Nara. Your sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. Team 9 is still active, so we'll move to Team 10. Team 10 is Choji Akimichi, Ino Yamanaka, and Hinata Hyuga. Your sensei will be Kurenai Yuhi. I wish everyone the best of luck. Everyone went wild the moment Iruka finished the team assignments. Sakura was standing triumphantly over Ino while screaming words that cannot be repeated. Ino was crying a river over not being able to be on the same time as her beloved Sasuke-kun. Hinata was poking her fingers together, while Shino was observing a bug on his sleeve. Shikamaru was staring out the window daydreaming. Kiba and Chuji were high-fiving each other. Naruto flashed Iruka a wide toothy smile and a thumbs up. It wasn't really noticeable, but Naruto saw the slight twinges of pain the man tried to hide. The battle with Mizuki last night had taken its toll on the young Chunin. The Fuma Shuriken hadn't damaged anything fatal, but Naruto knew that being stabbed in the back wasn't a fun experience. Still, he wasn't upset that he was a Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox or that he missed lunch the previous day. No. What shocked the young soon-to-be ninja was that Iruka didn't abandon him. The Nine-Tailed Fox killed his parents. Iruka had every right to kill him, but instead, he treated him like a human being. Flashback. Naruto's eyes widened as a shadow hovered over him with a pained smile on his face. Neither person missed the big thump that came mere seconds after. Iruka-sensei? Why? Iruka only smiled gently at the boy beneath him. He ignored the pain in his back, choosing to focus on the dark chuckle behind him. Run, Naruto. Mizuki eyed the scene before him with disgust as Iruka threw himself in front of the demon boy. However, he didn't stand idle as the little punk ran off into the woods. He chuckled softly as Iruka pulled the shuriken out of his back. I don't know why you're helping him, Iruka. He's nothing but trash. And like all trash, it's got to be taken out eventually. I need that scroll. He watched as Iruka shook his head. Iruka faced him with a look of determination in his eyes and straightened himself despite the pain in his back. Naruto's a lot of things, but trash isn't one of them. He's smarter than what people give him credit for. If I were you, Mizuki, I'd leave the boy alone. Mizuki only growled and took off into the woods with Iruka right behind him. Naruto came into a clearing and looked behind him with a sense of dread as he heard footsteps behind him. He saw Iruka come from the trees and signed a sign of relief. Naruto gripped the scroll tighter as Iruka's smile seemed to darken. Naruto, thank Kami you're safe. Give me the scroll. Naruto only stepped back and shook his head. Iruka growled. You little brat. I'll dash. Mizuki was caught off as Naruto kicked him back. Naruto went up in smoke as Iruka was revealed. This only served to make Mizuki even angrier. First you get in the way and now you're in the way, Iruka. I've told you before, Mizuki. Naruto is a future shinobi of this village. I'm not going to let you touch a hair on his head. Despite his words, Iruka fell to one knee. He stumbled to his feet before faltering again. Taking out another Fuma shuriken, Mizuki threw it with a frustrated yell. What neither shinobi didn't count on was a blonde-haired soon-to-be shinobi joining the fight again. Multiple shadow clone jutsu. Groups of orange boys slammed into Mizuki in every direction, which resulted in the Chunin being pummeled into the ground by Naruto's clones. Iruka watched Mizuki be overwhelmed by the clones and fall to the ground moaning in pain. Naruto walked over to Iruka with a tired smile on his face. Iruka caught the boy as he fell forward into his lap and slipped into unconsciousness. Iruka watched as the clones poof away not in smoke but in crystal dust. Iruka more Chunin arrived a few minutes later and stared at Iruka, who was still holding Naruto in his arms. Mizuki groaned from pain as the other Chunin picked him non-gently and hauled him away to the hospital before being taken to Ibiki. Iruka and Naruto were rushed to the hospital and were treated accordingly, and released later that night. Naruto was too caught in the memory that he didn't notice Shikamaru walking over to him until said lazy boy waved his hand in his face. Naruto, Asuma-sensei is here. Come on. Naruto nodded his head and walked next to the Nara with a bounce in his step. Asuma Sarutobi was a tall shinobi with short black spiky hair. Naruto could have sworn that the man's brown eyes were trying to bore right through him as he scratched his beard. Shikamaru did a small sigh next to him, meaning he felt the same way. It's a good thing Naruto learned how to speak Nara. All four of them walked up the stairs in silence until they reached the roof. To be honest, Asuma didn't know what to say to them. Hi. Hello. What up? Well, here goes nothing, he thought. Well, why don't we get to know each other? All three boys stared at him with either a blank look, irritated sign, or a beaming smile. I'll go first. My name is Asuma Sarutobi. I like to play shogi. I like eating sausage and soba with Tororo. I dislike perverts and people who put others down. My dream is to marry a certain someone and help you guys reach your dreams. Your turn, Bug Boy. If Shino was offended in any way, he didn't show it outwardly. My name is Shino Aburame and not Bug Boy. I like collecting and studying new insects. I dislike people who kill insects or treat them unfairly. Why, you ask? Because they are also living creatures. My dream is to reach the rank of Chunin and then become the next clan head. Asuma nodded as he pointed to Shikamaru. All right, your turn, lazy pineapple. Shikamaru glared at Asuma while giving a long sigh. My name is Shikamaru Nara. I like sleeping and cloud watching. I dislike people who disrupt my sleep and people who... My dream is to live an average life, marry an average girl, and have a girl and boy in that order. Then watch my daughter get married and my son become a successful ninja, and then die of old age before my wife. Asuma nodded again, albeit a little more slowly as he turned his attention to Naruto. Okay. Your turn, little fish cake. Unlike Shino, Naruto pointed his finger at Asuma and stated while shouting. The name means maelstrom. Not fish cake. Asuma grinned and waggled a finger in Naruto's face. But fish cake sounds cuter. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. It means maelstrom and not fish cake. I like ramen and training. I dislike people who put down others without even trying to help others first. I also like playing Go because it is a fair game. My dream is to become Hokage, so that people would recognize me for me and not for someone else. Again for the 100th time, Asuma nodded before handing each student a piece of paper. All right, since the introductions are over, your first test is tomorrow. Test. Insert loud groan from our resident fish cake and lazy pineapple. Yup. Meet me at training ground 25 at 8 o'clock sharp. Also don't eat breakfast or you'll throw up. With that, the bearded smoker left via Shunshin, leaving the three soon-to-be ninjas alone.
I'm hungry.
Anyone up for ramen? Asked Naruto. Shino and Shikamaru shrugged their shoulders and followed after the blonde midget to Ramen Ichiraku. The next morning was filled with an awkward silence as the three boys arrived at the training ground at around 7:30. Shikamaru sighed loudly as he stretched his arms above his head. Shino looked around for any sign of Asuma and proceeded to let loose a swarm of insects while heading off into the woods as Naruto began climbing one of the farthest trees in the southern corner of the clearing. Shikamaru took his place by the nearest tree, which happened to give him a clear view of Naruto and Shino's positions. Shino's sea green jacket helped him blend into the bushes and trees around them. Shikamaru had even managed to convince Naruto to wear a less obvious outfit like a navy blue t-shirt with fingerless gloves instead of his usual orange jacket and shirt. Still, he couldn't get rid of Naruto's orange cargo pants. All three boys waited for Asuma, who appeared exactly at 8 o'clock. Surprising enough, they didn't notice him sitting in a nearby tree eating breakfast. Shikamaru and the others watched Asuma survey the area as he only spotted one of his future students. Where are the others? Shikamaru shrugged his shoulders. Asuma shrugged his shoulders in return while taking a deep breath. The goal of this test is for one of you to get one of these packs of cigarettes. The test ends at 11. Pulling out a timer, he placed it on the nearest stump. Asuma held up 2 packs of cigarettes as the boy's sweat dropped. If you can get this, then you'll pass. If you fail, you will be forced back to the academy to try again next year. Asuma did not miss how Shikamaru narrowed his eyes and yawned at his words. Asuma raised his hand. Begin! Asuma was not disappointed as Shikamaru signed before charging at him, while Naruto and Shino stayed in the shadows. Shikamaru threw a few kunai at Asuma's feet, where they exploded shortly after. When the smoke cleared, Shikamaru was gone, but so was Asuma. Asuma cleared his throat as he spotted Naruto hiding behind the farthest tree. Appearing before the former academy student, Asuma's eyes widened as Naruto grinned at him. He turned into smoke as shuriken came out in every direction. Asuma dodged each shuriken but did not see the foot coming until it connected with his face, which revealed it to be a clone. Why aren't you guys sneaky? Shikamaru and Naruto glanced at each other as Asuma charged at both of them. Asuma smirked as Naruto fell back as Shikamaru engaged him again, drawing more kunai. Not falling for that same trick again. Asuma pulled Shikamaru's arm and flipped him over, but not before Shikamaru tapped his shoulder. Naruto charged towards Asuma, but was knocked out when he threw Shikamaru into him. You guys just can't charge in me and think I'm gonna fall for it. Quite true. Why you ask? We thought of something else, said a calm voice. Asuma's head turned behind him as he watched Shino stare at him with his hands in his pocket. Asuma was about to question him when he felt it. He began squirming as his whole body began to feel on fire. Shino shook his head as Asuma began shaking off the bugs, but did not notice the small tap in his pants. Asuma was suddenly held still as Shikamaru smiled at him. Not bad, but dash. Rearing. All 4 heads looked towards the timer as it went off. You don't have the packs. On quite the contrary, Asuma-sensei. We have both packs. Asuma felt his pockets as Naruto cracked his knuckles and neck in front of him with a grinning threatening to split his face open. You should be more careful, Asuma-sensei. Naruto held out 2 cigarettes packs in his hands, waving them in his face. How did you dash? Shikamaru took a deep breath. While we were eating yesterday at Ramen Ichiraku, we came up with a plan. We figured that you were going to focus on one of us at a time, so we based the plan around that. We had Shino use his insects to slowly creep on you while Naruto and I distracted you. When I tapped you on your shoulder, I left a very small Naruto on your shoulder. The other Narutos that you were fighting were clones. When Shino came out and distracted you, I grabbed the packs. Smart, huh? Asuma rubbed his neck as the boys smirked at him, even Shino. There are only 2 packs though. One of you is going to be sent back to the academy. Dichide. Now. That's highly improbable. Why, you ask? Teams usually work better in groups of 3. Splitting us up would be highly improbable. Shino stated. Naruto and Shikamaru nodded. Asuma signed. He has been doing a lot of that lately. Fine. I guess all I have to say is, you pass. What a drag. Naruto and Shino's sweat dropped as Asuma chuckled at Shikamaru. Shino was right. This test was about teamwork, and that's something many people forget about. I'll meet you guys here tomorrow for our real team meeting.
Yane.
Asuma Shunshin out the clearing. Why can't he walk out like a normal person? Asked Naruto. The Hokage was an old man. He was assumed to be wise for his age, a veteran shinobi. That did not mean he wanted to be responsible for every little thing that went wrong. Or the paperwork. Luckily, he had Iruka helping him out, since the academy was closed for the summer. Hiruzen lifted his head as Asuma and the other Jonin reported in for the upcoming and hopefully short meeting. Alright, what are the results of the new teams? Team 1. Failed. Team 2. Failed. Team 3. Failed. Team 4. Failed. Team 5. Failed. Team 6. Failed. Team 7. Passed. Silence ranged through the room. Kakashi lifted his head, repeated his answer, before looking at his Ika book again. Team 8. Passed. Everyone gave Asuma another glance as he repeated his answer. What? The 3 of them worked well together. Moving on, Team 9 is still rotation, so we'll continue to Team 10. Passed. Hiruzen smiled at hearing the results. Granted, he wished more students had passed, but if they were not ready, then there was no need to push them any further. Hiruzen nodded to everyone as they were dismissed. Things were starting to get interesting. Later that same day, we did it. We did it. This causes for a celebration. Both Shino and Shikamaru didn't know what celebrations Naruto was talking about, but it couldn't be that bad, could it? You little brats. Get back here. What a drag. No one spoke as the merchant ran past them, as all 3 boys hid under another cart. Naruto giggled as the merchant ran towards them, but never noticed the rope in front of him. Shikamaru even cracked a smile as they pulled the rope in opposite directions, making the man trip in a mud hole. All 3 genin laughed as the man moved around to no avail. This is one hell of a celebration you guys are having. Shino's eyes widened as both Shikamaru and Naruto were hoisted up into the air by a hidden rope. Shino didn't even make it 3 steps before he found his arms bound behind his back. Isn't it a little rude to humiliate others like that? All boys looked up as Asuma approached them. Behind him was a woman in her mid-20s to early 30s with shoulder-length untamed black hair. Asuma could see that her piercing red eyes held amusement in them as Naruto and Shikamaru struggled to get down. This wasn't planned. Believe it, Naruto thought as Asuma let both boys down with a sign and shake of his head. Now apologize. Kurenai laughed as all 3 boys bowed their heads to the merchant who wiped his face off with a handkerchief and a scowl on his face. We're sorry. It won't happen again. Believe it. At least not to you. Later that afternoon. Can you believe those guys? With Naruto, I expected him to do something like this. But Shino? Shikamaru? I never imagined something like this was possible. Asuma shook his head. You of all people should know that you shouldn't judge people by appearances, Asuma-kun. I know, but I'd expected all of them to behave a little more mature now that they're genin. Kurenai laughed bitterly. Did any of us behave more maturely when we became genin? I did. Liar, liar, pants on fire. I'm just saying, Where did my cigarettes go? Kurenai, did you touch them again? Asuma growled as Kurenai pulled a sticky note off Asuma's back. Smoking isn't good for you. With love, your mature genin team. Boys. Next morning. Listen, boys. I know we had quite the misunderstanding yesterday. I was trying to help you guys stay on the right path, but you all had to ruin it by taking my cigarettes, which was dirty, by the way. Still, that was in the past, and today is a new day. So drop and give me 100. Shikamaru moaned as Asuma pressed down on his back with his foot. He grunted as more pain shot through his spine as he pressed harder with his other foot. Shino and Naruto wasn't faring much better. After this, you ladies will run 5 laps around the training field. What about missions? Shino asked. Shino began running around the training ground with Shikamaru as Naruto did a few more push-ups for good measure as he joined the others. Team 8 was a new team with no experience with the outside world whatsoever, so it was understandable that Asuma would tough them up first before they had their first mission. Can you dodge a spinning kunai?
No.
Can you breathe underwater?
No.
No one can, Shino thought as he shared a look with the others. Can you stand on burning coal and feel no pain?
No.
Then you're not ready for missions. When you meet one of those 3 conditions, then I might consider it. So, in other words, never? I didn't say that. It's just unlikely that you guys are ready to be on a mission so soon after graduating. Kakashi-sensei already has his team doing missions, Naruto pointed out. Well, I'm not Kakashi. I want a well-trained team before we start missions. Aha, that's a perfect excuse, Shikamaru added in his 2 cents. All of you better keep running, before I change my mind and send you back to the academy stat. Sir, yes, sir. 2 months later. It had been 2 months, and Naruto's team had gone on a total of 20 D-rank missions. The term mission was used lightly since Naruto didn't consider washing an old man's underwear to be a mission for a genin of a ninja village. The one thing that all 3 boys had agreed on was that Tora the cat was either not from this world or its owner was bored as hell, and liked watching children catch it for her. Many other genin had suspected the latter. So it wasn't a surprise one day when a certain blonde-haired person and his team broke. Your next mission will be catching Tora. He was last seen near the hot springs. Good luck. Sarabtobi had only gotten to finish his sentence before Naruto fainted in Shikamaru's arms. Please. No more. This nightmare never ends. The other members of Team 8 could only roll their eyes as the blonde genin locked eyes with the Hokage. Please.
No.
Damn. Naruto's head and hopes fell in despair. 5 minutes later. All right, is everyone in position? Asuma and the others scanned the area with calculating eyes as he got 3 separate confirmations. LOR, are you ready to commence plan catch Tora for the 1600th time? Lazy Pineapple, are you in position? Bug Boy, are done playing with that insect?
Hi, sensei.
All was still for the next few minutes. The air was tense and serious as the LOR walked in front of Tora. Said cat immediately began running away in the opposite direction, but found that she couldn't move her legs. Shikamaru smirked as Naruto carefully approached Tora. Come on, Naruto. You're not scared of a tiny cat, are you? Naruto only glared in response as Tora started hissing at the blonde. He showed Tora both hands palm side up as he approached it slowly. Unbeknownst to the cat, Shino's little bugs were slowly eating away at her energy as she focused on Naruto. Tora was beginning to notice that her vision was getting foggy and muddled. Shikamaru loosened the jutsu slightly as Naruto took another cautious step. Bird, dog, serpent, ram, earth release, hexagon prism prison. Iruka stared at Naruto in amazement as he held up Tora encased in an orange hexagon prison. Iruka frowned at Naruto for another minute before signing. Naruto, your mission was to catch Tora, not kill her. But Iruka-sensei, it's not dead. It's just tired. Look, see? Sarutobi gave a small smile as Naruto shook the prison like a snow globe. Still, when the fire daimyo's wife came through the door, the cat felt glad to be inside the prism. After spending a few minutes of lecturing the students about respecting their clients and trapping their favorite cat in an orange prison, she went on her way. It was still light outside, so Sarutobi began looking for another D-rank mission before Asuma spoke up. Hokage-sama, with all due respect, I think my students are ready for a C-rank mission. Silence. Everyone stared at Asuma as he took another second to smoke. They have excellent teamwork, and I think this would be a good time for them to begin getting experience outside the village. Now he tries to be a sensei. How great, Naruto thought as he folded his arms. Why didn't he say anything before this mission? Sarutobi smoked for another minute on his pipe, before nodding his head. Iruka stared at the Hokage in shock as he pulled out a green folder labeled C. He observed each genin's face as he handed the mission folder to Asuma. All three boys were tired, but determined to move on to a higher rank. Very well then. Iruka-san, please bring him in. Iruka left the room in a flash of smoke. A few minutes passed before an older man walked into the room, obviously drunk. The man was in his late 50s, had gray hair with a thick beard to match. He had dark eyes and used them to look over Team 8. A slacker, a runt, and a creepy child. Isn't there anyone else left? The male had a gruff voice as he took a few steps back as Naruto's teammates held him back. Let me at him. I'll give him a black eye. I'll show you a runt. You already have Naruto. He's looking at you. Shut up. Shino's shoulders heaved for a moment, before all three boys started laughing. The Hokage smiled softly at them, thinking of his own genin days. Sarutobi assured Tazuna that despite their young age, Team 8 was a force to be reckoned with. Not to mention that Asuma was an experienced shinobi and could handle any problem that came their way. Alright team, we'll meet with Tazuna in the morning and get a move on then. Am I clear? Sir, yes sir. Still no runt. Drunk man must be off his meds. Naruto and the others were at the Konoha gate early the next morning. The only problem was that Team 8's client was nowhere to be found. Ludicrous? I know. Naruto was pacing back and forth, mumbling under his breath. Don't tell me you're still mad at Tazuna for his side comment that he made yesterday? Shikamaru laughed. Naruto had a good half-mind to hit Shikamaru upside the head but decided against it. It's not worth it, he kept repeating to himself. For this mission, Naruto had packed a few extra shirts and pants, with an extra set of kunai and shuriken. Naruto's current outfit consisted of a pair of baggy black pants, with a black and orange shirt. His trademark orange jacket was tied around his waist, due to the hot weather. Still, despite the hot temperatures, Shino refused to take off his jacket. Shikamaru shook his head as Naruto argued with Shino to take off his jacket. You're making me hot, Shino. That's very unfortunate, Uzumaki-san. What a drag. 5 minutes later. Asuma and Tazuna arrived at the gates 5 minutes later, bewildered by the current scene. All three boys were sitting calmly sipping tea, like they had all day to wait for their late sensei and client. Still, it was a very comical sight. Naruto poured himself another cup before turning to Asuma with a frown on his face. You're late, sensei. I do hope you won't make this a habit. Good morning to you as well, Tazuna. Asuma's and Tazuna's eyes widened as Shino and Shikamaru greeted them calmly. Asuma and Tazuna were still confused when they heard a distant noise behind them. Thanks to years of ninja training, Asuma was able to dodge multiple incoming kunai and pai. Tazuna wasn't so lucky. What a great start to a great morning. All right everyone, let's get going. The boys formed a triangle formation with Asuma at the front as the group started moving. Naruto held up the rear with Shikamaru and Shino on either sides of Tazuna. Shino pushed his black shades up further to his face when he spotted a puddle on the side of the road. He tensed slightly, trying to get the others' attention. Winking, Shikamaru rubbed the back of his head. Shikamaru messed with his jacket for a few moments before pulling out a small jug. Sensei, I forget to refill my bottle. Is there a stream nearby? Asuma frowned. You should have taken care of that before we left. Besides, you know that there aren't any rivers nearby. Naruto decided to add in his own 2 cents. But sensei, there's a puddle here and it hasn't rained for weeks. Everyone, including Tazuna, tensed as they passed the puddle. Now that they were closer, Asuma could see two shapes moving inside the water. Team 8 passed the puddle and nothing happened after a few minutes of silence. Naruto felt his chest loosen in relief as the puddle got further and further away with each step. Maybe the worst was over. Naruto felt a swoosh sound go by his head and felt his body move on his own. Luckily, Shino used his Kekkei bugs to distract the unknown ninja, while Shikamaru and Asuma moved in a defense position in front of Tazuna. Naruto narrowed his eyes as the ninja with the gauntlet on his right hand tried attacking Shino behind his back. Running, Naruto kicked the ninja in the side and landed next to Shino with a huff. The men slowed down as the bugs began working their magic. Taking this opportunity, Naruto ran over to both ninjas and dodged both of their gauntlets. He tried punching the closet one with a kunai, but the enemy only blocked it. His companion used his left hand to try to swipe at Naruto's face. Bending backwards, Naruto slid to the ground, as Shino appeared and kicked the ninja back a few feet. Pulling Naruto up, Shino threw a few kunai at the other ninja, forcing him into the shadows as well. Shadow possession jutsu complete. All 4 members of Team 8 smirked. "Who are you guys?" Naruto kicked the one closet to him in the butt as he repeated his question. "We're not talking," Asuma signed. "They're known as the Demon Brothers. They're from Kiri." The now identified Demon Brothers glared at the members of Team 8. Their mission had been compromised, and they had been defeated by a bunch of fresh genin. Stuff like that can ruin a person's image, you know? The moment the pineapple-haired kid released his jutsu, they were tied against a tree by the jonin. The jonin rubbed his stubby beard as he took another smoke. He tightened the ropes as he repeated his question. "Why are you here? I thought you worked only in Kiri." He inspected them more closely and found their headbands scratched out. "Now that's interesting. Why do you think we're here?" Gozu, who wore the gauntlet on his right hand, asked. His brother Meizu wore the one on the left hand. Gozu spat in Asuma's direction as the rope squeezed him tighter. "That is just rude. I didn't want to do this, but that kid right there," Asuma pointed to Shikamaru. "He's part of the Nara clan. Unless you guys want to be strangled in the worst possible way, I suggest you cooperate." "We're not scared." Shikamaru cracked his knuckles for added effect as shadows seemed to surround him. Gozu and Meizu's eyes widened. "Did I mention he has a very short temper?" Half an hour later, Team 8 stood around Tazuna wearing different levels of emotions. All of them were ranging from pissed to lazy. Tazuna shook his head as he told the team of the troubles that Wave had been experiencing. "Please, if you won't do it for me, then please do it for my grandson." Silence. "My sweet poor grandson. You couldn't possibly want him to grow up and become a pathetic old man like me, would you?" He watched the team's expressions. Naruto rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "That's true. You are pretty pathetic." The others nodded. "All right, Tazuna. We will help you save Wave." Asuma ordered Team 8 to get back into the triangle formation as they continued moving along the road. The next day, the team came across a river later that afternoon. Tazuna and Team 8 had been quiet the entire way, locked away in their own thoughts. Everyone was on edge since the last ambush. Naruto and Shikamaru had switched positions during this time as well. A rustling in the nearby bushes caused everyone to tense, as Shino tossed a kunai in that direction. Unlike the others, Tazuna visibility relaxed as a scared white rabbit walked out. Naruto and the others relaxed as well for a moment, before Asuma pushed everyone to the floor. It wasn't even a second later when a swishing sound passed over their heads. A sharp blade passed through 5 trees before making it halfway through the 6th. A pale man stood in the trees above them, smirking, even though they couldn't see it beneath his bandages. The man's forehead protectors was sideways, but Naruto could still make out the 4-wave symbol, scratched out. "Damn it!" Asuma placed himself in front of the others, giving them a chance to stand up again. Out of the corner of his eye, Asuma grimaced as he noticed the boys shaking. If it was from fear or anticipation, Asuma couldn't tell. "Stay focused, everyone. This guy is the real deal." The man in question only cocked his head to the side, grabbing his blade out of the tree, showing a big dent. Naruto felt his breath catch in his throat as the man's voice appeared from everywhere. I feel honored that the son of the professor knows of someone like me. Hand over the old man and I won't send your beloved father his son in a casket. The voice was gruff and held a certain sadistic edge to it. Naruto felt a clammy hand placed on his shoulder, and in his panic he turned around coming face to face with Shino. Calm yourself, Naruto. Everything will be fine. Besides the fact that Shino used his first name, Naruto couldn't help but feel that Shino was lying through his teeth to comfort both of them. Nonetheless, Naruto nodded as the man's voice ranged through his ears loud and clear. Do you little kids really believe that everything is going to be alright? Speech? When I'm through with you, there's not going to be a single hair left to show you even existed. Zabuza Momochi, I've heard of you. They used to call you the demon of the mist, for a reason. Demon? If the situation weren't so dire, Naruto would have laughed at Shikamaru's pale face. No sooner than those words spoken, Asuma appeared in front of Naruto, blocking a direct attack from the now identified Zabuza. Oh, please stop. You're flattering me. As Zabuza spoke, he applied pressure, forcing Asuma back a few feet. Team 8 backed away, giving Asuma enough room to step back again, before throwing Zabuza off him. Zabuza reappeared moments later on the lake in front of them. Asuma held his trench knives in front of him, his eyes never leaving Zabuza's. Team 8 gathered their own kunai, preparing themselves for another attack. Zabuza chuckled to himself as he charged forward, meeting Asuma head-on. The two parried attacks, but Asuma's eyes narrowed when he stabbed Zabuza in the heart. Why? Zabuza melted into water. With Team 8. On sheer luck, Naruto moved the arm holding his kunai to his left as Zabuza reappeared in front of Team 8. Shino immediately sent his Kekkei bugs to attack Zabuza as Naruto pushed his blade against Zabuza's. The man wasn't even trying to overpower him, opting to play around first. Shikamaru could practically see the smirk underneath those bandages as Naruto struggled to stay rooted to his spot. Asuma kicked Zabuza in the side as Naruto faltered. Shino moved to his side, guarding him as he caught his breath. Naruto, can you stand? Naruto glanced at Shikamaru and nodded as he caught his breath. With Asuma and Zabuza, tell you what, Sarutobi, if you let me kill the old man, I'll spare those kids and kill you instead. I have a better idea. We all survive in one piece and we keep our client. Sound good? Neither shinobi moved for a minute, until a distant wind picked up. Zabuza began doing hand seals as Asuma charged at him. Water release. Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu. A large dragon formed out of the water, focusing its crimson eyes on Asuma. Letting out a giant roar, the dragon charged at the Leaf Jonin head-on. Asuma waited till the last second to sweep under the great dragon, calling out his own technique, Wind Release. Dust Cloud Jutsu. Asuma cupped his hands in front of him, blowing a high-pressured wind directly at Zabuza. By now, the two shinobi were only mere feet apart, just like Asuma had planned. Zabuza only had a second to react, using his sword to block the attack before he felt his entire body blown across the water. Flipping himself one more time, he landed on his feet, swaying slightly. Gripping his sword tightly, he chuckled once more. Not bad. You managed to cut up my shoulder pretty badly. Do you always talk this much when fighting? Asked Asuma, who was panting slightly. Asuma swore under his breath as the air around them began to thicken. Mist quickly rolled in the area, making it hard for everyone to see anything. Turning his head, he turned to the others. Shikamaru, Shino, Naruto, get Tazuna out of here now. I'll cover you. Distracted, Asuma felt his breath catch in his throat as a kunai buried itself in his right shoulder. Pulling the body towards him, Asuma stabbed towards where the heart was, muttering again when it turned into water. In a sideways slash, Zabuza appeared at his side and sliced Asuma in half. Asuma exploded, however, knocking Zabuza back a few feet. Zabuza felt a stinging pain in his left arm and right leg, as Asuma pressed a blade against his throat. The blade tickled Zabuza's neck as pressure was applied. The blade cut through the bandages surrounded around Zabuza's neck like paper. Zabuza pressed himself against the blade, exploding into water. Asuma covered himself as the clone burst, before he felt himself covered in water. Not even realizing he had closed his eyes, Asuma found he wasn't covered in water, but surrounded by water. I hope you like this technique. It took me a while, but it worked. Glancing to his right, Asuma saw Zabuza holding the prison with his hand. The mist lessened slightly, allowing Asuma to spot his team. Shikamaru, Shino, Naruto. I thought I told you guys to get out of here. Run now. Naruto and the others stood in place petrified. Zabuza chuckled, shaking his head. That's what you get for bringing mere children into this. Oh well. Another Zabuza began walking towards the boys laughing. Asuma gritted his teeth as watched Zabuza stalk towards the boys. With Team 8 looking at the others, Naruto noticed that their faces had paled considerably. Stepping forward, he held his kunai to his chest sideways, with his other palm facing up. Breathing calmly, he took another breath, trying to keep his heart rate even. Zabuza's clone shook its head as it watched Naruto preparing to defend himself. Springing forward, he was surprised when he felt himself stopped cold. The other boy held his fingers together, panting harshly. Naruto ran forward, tossing his kunai at Zabuza, aiming for the heart. The clone broke free of Shikamaru's jutsu, dodged to the left, continuing his charge. Naruto's eyes widened as the man ran past him, pulling out two kunai, and aimed at Tazuna. Shino moved in front of the blades, deflecting the first, and missed the second. Shikamaru moved in front, catching the blade in his left shoulder. He grunted as the kunai buried itself deep. The boys ignored Asuma's pleas for them to run, as Zabuza charged again. Shino's bugs swarmed themselves around Zabuza, but he acted as though they didn't exist. He struck a punch at Shino, who moved to the right, trying to sweep Zabuza off his feet. Grabbing his foot, Zabuza threw Shino in the surrounding forest, efficiently knocking him out. Distracted, he didn't notice Naruto until he felt a cold hand on his shoulder. Zabuza caught a glimpse of orange, before he felt two legs surround themselves around his neck. Naruto tightened his grip, hesitantly stabbing the clone in the back. The clone grunted, before melting back into water. The real Zabuza whistled as Naruto turned to him. He made a "come here" motion, taunting the boy. It seemed to work as Naruto charged at Zabuza. Pulling out a Fuma shuriken, Naruto threw it at Zabuza. Zabuza moved to block the kunai by easily deflecting it with his sword, but hesitated when the shuriken turned out to be another Naruto. Slicing through the boy, Zabuza was surprised when he turned into smoke. The forest was quiet as the smoke cleared and Naruto was nowhere to be found. Two kunai appeared from two different directions, forcing Zabuza to release the prison. He wasn't able to move 2 steps before he felt something encase his feet to the water. Asuma immediately put distance between the two, landing to an equally surprised Naruto. Naruto, how did you dash? Asuma was caught off as Zabuza hacked through the crystallized water with his Kubikirabocho. Zabuza stared at Naruto for a moment, raising his sword again. He charged at Asuma, but changed his direction at the last minute. Asuma cursed as watched the sword nearly cleave Naruto in half. Nearly. A wall of crystallized water blocked Zabuza's sword cold. Seeing his chance, Asuma grabbed Naruto while throwing kunai at Zabuza. Grabbing his sword from the wall, Zabuza avoided all but one kunai, which planted itself in his other arm. By now, all the shinobi were panting from either exhaustion or pain. Zabuza stilled suddenly as Senbon launched themselves in his neck, instantly killing him. The man hit the water with a huge splash, as a boy no older than Naruto's age appeared. Thank you for tiring him out. I'm from Kiri. You must be one of their hunter nins. Correct. The boy nodded. Grabbing the body, the hunter nin quickly vanished, leaving Team 8 alone. Asuma and Naruto met Tazuna and the others back on the land. Shino had regained consciousness 5 minutes ago, opting to help Shikamaru get the blade out of his shoulder. Asuma swayed on his feet, glancing at Naruto, saying, "Naruto, we have to talk later." With those words, Asuma promptly fainted onto said student. What a drag. Half an hour later, Naruto and Shino carried the exhausted Asuma on their shoulders, grunting every few minutes under Asuma's weight. Tazuna, who only had the biggest scare of his life, was supporting Shikamaru's uninjured arm. At least he was still alive and breathing. Team 8 and Tazuna had seen what Naruto had done to the water, but no one knew what to say. Naruto glared at his sensei as he remembered how the man had fallen on him after the fight. Naruto himself was exhausted, but at least he was still able to walk. According to Tazuna, his home was not too far from wherever they were, so the boys just ignored their grumbling stomachs and aching bodies and followed the man. When Tazuna started picking up the pace, they assumed they were close. Naruto signed as Asuma seemed to grow even heavier. Or was he just that tired? Tazuna stopped within 2 steps of one of the biggest houses he had ever seen. A woman around 5 feet 2 inches with long ebony hair ran out of the house, passed by Tazuna without a single glance, and immediately inspected Asuma. "He'll be all right. He's just exhausted from our previous fight." The women nodded and surprisingly helped carry Asuma into the house with Shino. Shikamaru and Naruto were busy supporting each other as Tazuna showed them to their rooms. Naruto crashed onto the nearest bed in the room, snoring lightly. The others' sweat dropped, but took a much-welcomed rest themselves. Later that day, by the time Naruto had woken up again, it was dark outside. The room was empty, but there were lights on downstairs. His limbs were sore and were screaming at him to lay down as he trudged down the stairs. The woman from earlier guided him to the table, where Shikamaru and the others were already stuffing their mouths with food. Naruto sat between her and Shikamaru. She placed a miso ramen in front of a drooling Naruto. Naruto gulped his ramen down his throat and helped himself to the rest of the pot. Shikamaru and Shino knew better than to mess with Naruto when he was hungry. "This food is delicious, ma'am." Naruto nodded vigorously, still slurping the ramen. "Please call me Tsunami. I must thank you for protecting my father. He can be a real handful sometimes." Shino waved her off. "As boys of our word, we refused to abandon him. We were just doing our duty, Tsunami-san." Tired and full, Naruto laid his head on the cool table. Asuma was still in bed recovering. Tsunami had already fed Asuma while Naruto was sleeping. Tsunami had informed Naruto that Asuma's room was the second one on the right. As Naruto trudged up the stairs, he thought about what had transpired earlier. He hadn't meant to do whatever he'd done. Those crystals had appeared on their own, but at the same time they had felt like they were a part of him, as if they were a mere extension of his arms or his body in general. Still, he couldn't feel anything now. When the crystal wall had appeared in front of him, he felt cold. Not freezing cold, but just colder than normal. Asuma didn't seem to notice this when he grabbed Naruto, but they were in the middle of a fight. When Naruto popped his head into the room, he saw his sensei laying on the bed, wearing bandages all over his body. At least the man was still alive. That thought reminded Naruto of Zabuza. He was probably the strongest opponent that Naruto had ever faced in a real fight to the death. The man enjoyed seeing Naruto and the others shake and squirm with fear. Naruto clenched his fist. Their lives were a game to him. He didn't really care about slaughtering them. He just liked seeing them scared and wetting their pants. Naruto had felt the man holding back as they crossed blades. Naruto felt his body getting colder as he leaned against Asuma's now closed door. Naruto found his way to his own room, his head now swarming with pain. "I must be really tired," he thought as he laid his head on his pillow. As Naruto felt his anger for Zabuza go away, his body began to heat up again. Downstairs with Shino and Shikamaru. "It looks like I win." Shikamaru stared at the board and then at Shino. In a tired huff, Shikamaru messed up the board pieces and threw the board across the room. Someone was a sore loser. "I'm going to bed." Shino nodded as he hid a smile behind his cloak. The next day, Team 8 was lounging around helping Tsunami with household chores as Asuma recovered. On occasion, Tazuna would tell the team stories about Wave's history. Naruto was still sore and tired, but his ears perked up when one particular story caught his attention. "Did I tell you guys about the story of the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe?" But seriously, Tazuna had called it Tales of a Man's Best Friend. One of the stories was about a dog named Hachiko. Hachiko had waited at the front of the house every day at exactly 6 p.m. waiting for his master to come home. When the master had died in a fishing accident, the dog continued to wait on the porch for 9 years until he died of old age. Naruto stared at his palms as he pictured a dog with wolf-like ears, a bored body with a black and white coat. Blinking, he noticed a small statue of a dog forming in front of him. Like yesterday, his body felt colder, but not in a painful or freezing kind of way. The others had stared at Naruto in shock as the crystal dog stared back at them. The dog was sitting on his hind legs, raising a paw as if to say hello. In his sputter, Naruto dropped the dog on the floor, but the crystal didn't shatter as expected. Instead, it made a clanking noise. Tsunami ran in the living room and noticed everyone's surprised expressions. Picking up the dog, she smiled as she petted it. "It's so cute. Who made it?" Everyone pointed to Naruto, who rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Tsunami handed the dog to Naruto, who accepted it hesitantly. "How did you do that?" "I have no idea." Later that night, after Naruto's crystal dog accident was over, the day had pretty went as normal as a day with teammate could be. For the rest of the afternoon, Naruto tried to create another animal, but nothing happened. By the time dinner rolled around, Naruto was found laying on the floor panting and hungry. Most of dinner was quiet since everyone had food in their mouths. Naruto laid the crystal dog next to Asuma as he watched his sensei rest. Asuma had woken up briefly, but that was it. The man was still injured, but he was improving steadily. Naruto thought back to what Asuma had said about them having a talk later. If Naruto was honest with himself, he was worried, but his body shook with anticipation at the same time. Naruto sighed as the dog glittered in the moonlight. Naruto needed to take a walk. That night, Naruto pulled his orange jacket on with his shoes as he opened his window, trying not to disturb a sleeping Shino. The air was cold and brisk, but it didn't deter Naruto from jumping off the windowsill. He probably should have asked for a map or something because he had no idea where he was walking. He found himself by the dock 2 hours later as the moon glared down at him. He continued along the docks before he stopped at a nearby beach. He stared at his reflection and sat there thinking about the past few days before he found himself asleep on his makeshift sandy bed. Next day morning, Naruto woke up with a start as water came crashing down on him. At first he was mad and thought that someone had threw a bucket of water over him, when he realized that it was only rain. He stared at the now soggy sand for a while, before pulling himself up. He noted that there were no fishermen out today, probably due to the weather. His clothes were drenched and heavy, but he felt lighter than before. Shrugging his shoulders, he sprinted to Tezuna's house as thunder began rumbling through the pouring skies. Tsunami had yelled and fretted over Naruto and his wet clothes as he knocked on the door. Tsunami had went even as far as to slap the back of his head when Naruto claimed she was worrying for nothing. "Nothing? You could have died out there." Naruto frowned. "Lightning strike, ingestion of too much water, the flu, everything." Naruto nodded as Tsunami gave him a list long as her arm. Naruto began to doze off as Tsunami kept droning on about the dangers of the rain. Tezuna decided to save the poor boy when Tsunami started shoving vegetables down Naruto's throat. They weren't even seasoned. "Naruto promises to never go out again without telling you again, right, Naruto?" Naruto shook his head. "I'm a grown man," Naruto shouted. "You're only 13. Quiet, Shikamaru. Afternoon. Look at who's finally up and alive." Team 8 looked up from their card game as Asuma limped into the room. Asuma gave out a shout of pain and groaned as his team tackled him to the ground. "Asuma-sensei. Let me up already." Team 8 backed away as Tezuna helped Asuma off the ground. "As you all know, I've been out for the past few days, but now that I'm back, I'm going to train you all like hell." Everyone was silent as they absorbed Asuma's words. Shino was impassive, Naruto was all pumped up, and Shikamaru was, well, gone. "In the morning we'll begin training, so eat dinner and get a good night's rest because tomorrow is going to be hell." "Yang." Asuma slapped the back of Shikamaru's head. "Show some respect, lazy pineapple." The next day, Naruto and the rest of Team 8 had been startled awake by Tezuna and Asuma the next morning as cold buckets of water woke them up. They had walked out to the forest as Tezuna had walked to the bridge and met with the other workers. Shikamaru had tried to convince Asuma that Tezuna would need protecting, but Asuma wouldn't hear any of it. The team was silent as they watched Tazuna walk to the bridge. Asuma signed as he took a deep breath. Everybody listen up. I have reason to believe that Zabuza is still alive. Chaos erupted among the three boys as they thought about the possibility of Zabuza still being alive. That boy claimed he was from Kiri. Hunter Nins from Kiri always dispose of the body of traitors on sight. So why would he take the body away? Unless he wasn't a hunter Naruto started. And instead worked with Zabuza, then this would make perfect sense. Shino concluded. Asuma nodded. Exactly, but he was hurt pretty badly, so he'll be out for about a week as well. By then you guys will be somewhat ready. Naruto pumped his fist in the air and looked at Asuma with a determined gleam in his eyes. Then's let's get started. 2 hours and a half later, Naruto moved against his body's will as Asuma launched kunai after kunai at him. Thanks to years of pranks, Naruto had been nicked only a few times in the arms. What made it harder was that he was doing it while balancing himself on a tree. Before the team had left Konoha, Asuma had taught the group the tree climbing exercise. During that week, they practiced non-stop on just sticking to the tree without either slipping off or making it explode. Shikamaru and Shino watched as Naruto grew tired with a sigh. Naruto fell off the tree with a thud as he got nicked in the arm. Each boy had to do this twice, and this was, thankfully, Naruto's second time doing it. Taking a well-deserved rest, Naruto plopped next to Shino as Shikamaru walked towards Asuma, with a grim look on his face as Asuma recovered the kunai. 30 minutes later, Shino, Shikamaru, continue walking up and down the trees until you can stick to the trees perfectly for 10 minutes straight. Naruto, a minute please. Naruto and Asuma had walked deeper into the forest, ignoring the curious looks from the others. Asuma was silent as the blonde boy stood beside him. Asuma paused at a water clearing. This is it, Naruto thought. How are you feeling, Naruto? Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I could use a bowl of miso ramen, but other than that I'm okay. Asuma chuckled at the response. Naruto, I'm not sure what you did back at the battle with Zabuza exactly. Do you have any idea what it is? Naruto shook his head. Well, we can't do anything about it till we get back home. So until then let's figure out what we do know. Whenever I use it, I internally feel colder. While you were out, I was able to create that crystal dog by your bedside, but I couldn't do it again. Asuma rubbed his chin. So all we know is that your abilities are probably connected to your emotions. You can crystallize water and create cute crystal dogs. That's not a lot of information, Naruto. That only leaves one option. Naruto was about to question this when Asuma started charging at him head-on. Naruto quickly slipped into panic mode as Asuma struck a kick to Naruto. Throwing his hands between his face and stomach, a crystallized wall appeared in front of Naruto, throwing Asuma off guard. So the theory about it being connected to your emotions is correct. Naruto, try to control your fear this time. Try to call on the power while relaxing your body and mind. Naruto nodded as Asuma threw a churka-enhanced kunai at Naruto. Holding his ground, Naruto squinted his eyes as the blade inched closer to him. Suddenly the blade bounced off the new crystal construction. Instead of a crystal wall, the crystal was a jagged S. It was not as wide as the wall, but it was definitely taller. Naruto panted slightly as Asuma continued throwing kunai, and then started switching it up with kunai and shuriken or different sizes of the weapons. As the sun reached its midpoint, Naruto was beginning to be able to defend himself with ease, while controlling the length and width of the crystal. But Naruto! Asuma had launched 2 kunai with a shuriken at Naruto as he prepared to defend himself before Naruto saw a 4th shuriken and didn't block it in time. The shuriken had embedded itself in his right shoulder as Naruto fell to the ground panting and clutching his shoulder. Asuma had immediately apologized, but Naruto had waved it off. It's not like you meant to hit me. Asuma held Naruto down as he pulled the shuriken out. Naruto grounded his teeth as the bloodied shuriken came out. Naruto watched with mild fascination as the wound slowly began healing on its own. That's enough training for today. We'll pick it up tomorrow. Naruto nodded, exhausted. As the two of them walked back to the others, Shino immediately inspected Naruto's injury. It's not too deep, but let's get back to the house just to be sure. Tsunami gave Shino the gauze as Naruto pulled his bloodied shirt off. Naruto applied pressure to the wound, watching it heal slowly as Shino continued to wipe the blood away and wrap the gauze around Naruto's shoulder. Who knew we had a medic in the house? Thanks, Shino. Our team's survival chances increase if a medic is around. Besides, you and Shikamaru get injured all the time, so someone has to be the medic. Everyone laughed. Alright team, get some dinner and some rest. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a group exercise. So be prepared to get dirty and for anything. Yes, sir. Next day, morning. Birds were singing a happy tune, breakfast was being cooked downstairs, and teammate was enjoying a little R&R. The key word being was. Shikamaru jumped out of bed as cold water was poured all over him. Shino's face met cold wood as Asuma flipped the bed over and Naruto. Let's just say that Naruto wasn't a happy camper this morning either. That's how we found Team 8 that morning. Cold, tired, and definitely full of life. Okay, so maybe not that last one, but hey, Asuma did warn them. The sun was out this morning, and Tazuna again went to meet with the workers about working on the bridge. In the past few days, many of the workers had refused and outright quit when they had heard Zabuza was in the area. Tazuna had told them it was all right, but on the inside, he was regretting that decision. He only had less than 30 people out of the 1,000 or so who started with him. Tazuna? How about the boys help speed up the process on the bridge as a warm-up? Despite their small stature, Tazuna now knew better than to underestimate the boys' potential. Nodding, Naruto began to help some of the men lift the weights, while Shikamaru and Shino helped the others lift and set the weights in place. 2 hours later morning. The weather was still nice out as brunch rolled around. The boys had sped up construction by a day and a half, and Tazuna was more than grateful. However, that still didn't mean that he was going to let them drink, let alone touch his beer. Just like yesterday, Asuma had led the boys into the surrounding forest. Most of the trees were old, but still sturdy, and that's what Asuma exactly had in mind. He gave the boys 3 minutes in order for them to come up with a strategy, before he began to lay out the rules. Rule 1. No fatal strikes. Rule 2. No one touches my cigarette unless they want to be sleep out in the forest tonight. Finally, Rule 3. Do your best. Everyone ready? Set. Go! Unlike the bell challenge, Team 8 didn't immediately spilt up. Shino and Naruto ran on the opposite sides of Asuma as Shikamaru threw kunai. Asuma kept a blank face as he easily blocked Shino's punch, and he flipped over, sending him into Naruto. Both boys fell to the floor, popping when a hand gripped Asuma's shoulder. Shino's equally blank stare met Asuma's as he tried locking his feet around Asuma's neck. Keyword tried. This time, Asuma flipped the real Shino on his stomach as Naruto popped out of nowhere and tried punching Asuma as his back was turned. Asuma kept one hand on Shino holding him down, and used the other to grab Naruto, stopping him cold. Shikamaru kicked Asuma in the gut, knocking him back, while getting him off his teammates. Helping Shino up, the team stared down Asuma who had regained his bearings. Shikamaru and Shino threw Naruto in the air as Asuma charged at them. Shino and Shikamaru moved to the side, grabbing one of Asuma's legs. They quickly tied a rope to his legs, nailing it to the ground, moving again as Naruto called out his jutsu. Crystal Release. Dragon Claws Jutsu. Twin blue crystal-like claws appeared on Naruto's arms as he came crashing down in a dive. Since Asuma still had control of his hands, he blocked the first claw with his kunai, but stopped when his vision was covered with insects. Shikamaru stood off into the shadows using his Shadow's Possession Jutsu. Gripping Naruto's other arm, Asuma threw the boy into Shikamaru, who wasn't able to dodge in time as Shino attacked him with another punch as his bugs continued attacking Asuma. Free of Shikamaru's Possession Jutsu, Asuma broke his legs out of the restraints as jumped onto another tree, doing hand signs. Wind Release. Blowback Jutsu. Shino felt his back hitting a tree as he groaned on the floor seconds later. Asuma surveyed the area as he called the match over. Both Naruto and Shikamaru were on the floor panting while Shino was still down for the count. He clapped a few times, as they all tried to get their bearings and catch their breath. 20 minutes later afternoon. All right team, what went wrong? Everyone sat in silence for a few moments. You went too hard on us for one thing. Naruto laughed as Shikamaru leaned against a tree with his eyes closed. What do you mean I went to hard? I used the same strength I always use against you guys. You're improving though, and your teamwork is getting better as well. That's another good thing. When we get back to Konoha, remind me to get you guys a special package. Shino raised an eyebrow. What is the special package? Do you want us to say Asuma-sensei? Don't forget that special package you made us promise about back in Wave? Why you ask? It seems kind of weird. Shikamaru and Naruto nodded. Asuma signed. Just remind me, okay? Everyone laughed. For the rest of the afternoon, Asuma spent the time training the team individuality before switching to someone else, as the current person grew tired. Turns out everyone had something to work on. Shino with his speed, Shikamaru with his strength and stamina, and Naruto with his new ability and chakra control. Asuma gave them another 30-minute break before making them have another team exercise. This fight was shorter since they were more tired, but they managed to amuse Asuma nonetheless. All right, everyone, let's head inside. 2 days later, the week had progressed fast and swiftly as Naruto and the others looked out the windows. It had finally been a week, and everyone was tense. The bridge was nearly complete, and now the only thing that had to worry about was catching a cold, and Zabuza. The team had decided that Team 8 would take care of any Zabuza's little friends, while Asuma settled the score with the former Kirin. Tomorrow, Team 8 would protect Tazuna while the final changes would be put on the bridge. Currently, the team was resting their muscles for the morning fight. Everyone was eating dinner when the youngest member of Tazuna's family slammed his hands on the kitchen table. Naruto momentarily stopped slurping his ramen as everyone turned towards him. You're all going to die. The boy had spiky ebony hair and dark eyes. He wore a green jumpsuit with a yellow shirt underneath with a simple pair of sandals. Tsunami had made him take off his blue and white stripped hat at the dinner table. He had a frown marring his face as Naruto gently set his bowl down. Well, that's positive. Gado's men are going to kill you. Then he's going to kill my grandfather, just like he killed my dad. Naruto clicked his tongue. That's the most I've ever heard you say, Inari. It's true. You all know it's true. Why fight if you know you're going to die? That's the path for you. Death. The now identified Inari cocked his head to the right. How do you know my name? Naruto stopped slurping his ramen again. While your mom and I were baking cookies, she told me. Silence. The only path isn't just death, Inari. How do you know that? Gado's men are bigger and stronger than you. Inari's face was redder than a cherry as he and Naruto got into each other's faces. He'll kill you. You don't know that. You're going to die. Your argument is getting weaker. I think I'm winning, Naruto said in a singing voice. Both faces were close. They could feel each other's breaths. After staring into each other's eyes for a few moments, they began to crack smiles at each other. Inari had tears coming out of his eyes, and as Inari wiped them away, Naruto rubbed his head like he was a little child. Everyone smiled affectionately at the two, and then continued dinner. The rest of dinner was relatively calm as Naruto and Inari chatted to each other like old friends. Tsunami had to excuse herself a few times, but Naruto had reassured Inari it wasn't because of him. As everyone headed to bed, Naruto and Inari stayed downstairs planning card games. Naruto sent Inari off to bed as he put his coat back on. Tying his sandals, Naruto had a clone personally escort Inari to bed, as the boy had fallen all asleep on the couch. Naruto left a note, saying he wanted some last-minute training before tomorrow, and wrote he would be back in time to leave with the others in the morning. Next day, morning. Turns out that Naruto lost track of time, as he stayed out longer than he had intended. He was trying his current crystal release techniques, trying to find ways to use them without tiring himself out. The obvious answer would be to practice until he got them down just about perfect, but who had time like that? He surely didn't. He found himself waking up with birds chirping above him as the harsh sun pierced his eyes. His body felt like someone had run him over with a truck, then backed up twice. He realized that he had crashed a field in the forest. He groaned as he tried to regain consciousness. A person in a pink sleeveless kimono with pale red edges stood over him looking concerned. Naruto took another minute to address the new stranger. The person was wearing her hair loosely and had her kimono wrapped with a simple obi tied in a bow. Naruto stared into the stranger's large dark brown eyes as she helped him off the ground. "Are you all right?" Naruto nodded. His back was stiff, but with a little stretching he would be fine. "Who are you?" Naruto's voice cracked a little as he cursed himself in his head. The female only smiled before telling him her name was Haku. As the two talked, Naruto had completely forgotten about the others until Haku had asked him an interesting question. "Who are your precious people?" "Precious people?" "Yes, the people that you would protect with your life. You wouldn't need to even think about it. You would give your life for theirs in a heartbeat." Naruto paused. The third Hokage and Asuma sensei flashed into his mind. His comrades were also important to him. Shino, Shikamaru, Choji, and sometimes Kiba. He thought of the females he knew, and his favorite ramen chef and his daughter Ayam. He nodded as thought over Haku's words. "I guess I see what you mean." Haku smiled as she stood up. "When you have special people in your life, then you become stronger. In both combat and in life. Please remember that." Naruto nodded. Haku turned to Naruto one last time. "By the way, I'm a boy." Same day, afternoon. Naruto was rubbing his neck as he walked toward the house. He really had taken a long time to chat with Haku. Just when he thinks he's found a sane woman, it turns that it was a cross-dressing man. Well, Haku claimed he wasn't cross-dressing, but Naruto wasn't sure. He found the house quiet as he walked inside, and assumed that the others had already left without him. Naruto didn't blame them. If he was 4 hours late, he would have late a long time ago too. Still, something still didn't feel right.
No.
That was Tsunami's voice. Naruto carefully approached the kitchen. The room was practically empty except there were two big thugs, with a frightened Tsunami and a brave little boy. It then dawned on Naruto that the little boy was Inari. Naruto felt pride swell in his chest as he watched Inari fight against the thugs. Naruto managed to catch Inari's eye. Catching on, Inari began speaking about he wasn't going to be a crybaby anymore, and was going to defend himself and all that good stuff. Naruto hit both the pressure points on their necks as Inari drew back his arrow. Naruto helped Tsunami off the floor as he rubbed Inari's hair. "Nicely done, kid. You stay here and protect your mom while I go help the others." Inari nodded. Back at the bridge, the battle had already begun. Shino faced off against Zabuza's special helper, while Asuma battled Zabuza himself. Both men were fully healed and were ready to finish the fight for good. Since Naruto hadn't shown up, they were forced to work with what they had. Shikamaru had stayed behind to protect Tazuna as Shino had engaged in a fight with Zabuza's fake hunter Nin. The fake hunter Nin was faster, but Shino was stronger. Asuma was impressed with the boy's skill, but tried to stay focused on his own fight, lest he wanted to end up dead. Shikamaru gritted his teeth. Where was Naruto? "Sorry I'm late. I had to save Inari and his mom. Then I had to take a shower and wash my face. 'Cause who wants to help his team while being filthy?" Shikamaru smacked the back of Naruto's head as he appeared moments later. Tazuna signed in relief as Naruto smiled at them. Spotting Shino and the hunter Nin, Naruto cracked his knuckles. "Let's get started, shall we?" With Naruto and Shino. Naruto rushed to help Shino as he faltered. Shino was breathing heavily and his muscles were sore. His mind was working in overtime. The hunter Nin used his mirrors to dodge Shino's bugs, making them essentially useless. It didn't help that his churka was running low and he was getting dizzy. His body didn't react in time in order to see the punch heading straight for his face. He waited for the impact before opening his eyes. When did he close them? "Leave him alone. You're my opponent now." The hunter Nin didn't speak. Naruto kicked the Nin back as he charged at him. The hunter Nin threw kunai at the still following Shino. Distracted, Naruto moved to help him dodge them. The hunter Nin took this chance to slip back into the mirrors. He quickly began changing mirrors as Naruto began smashing the ones he kept transferring to. Striking the mirror the hunter Nin was at, Naruto struck the one next to it at the same time. The hunter Nin cursed softly as he fell out of the mirrors. Naruto stabbed a kunai into the hunter Nin's kimono, forcing him to rip his sleeve as he pulled away. The Hunter Nin adjusted his white mask as he moved against Naruto's body. The Hunter Nin's long black hair flowed in the wind as they stared down each other. Shino crawled his way out of the mirrors in order to get out their way. Good luck, Uzumaki-san. With Asuma and Zabuza. Asuma was having his own problems just like his students were. Except his problem was buff, mean, and definitely a fighting machine. Zabuza wasn't going easy on him either since he was defeated in their last battle. Zabuza and Asuma were trading attacks like crazy, but either of them were even thinking of slowing down. There was too much on the line. Wind release, great breakthrough. Asuma cupped his hands around his mouth as he pushed his hands in outward motion. Zabuza used his sword to push back against the wind, but his body was still across the water. Is that the best you got? Zabuza called, ripping off his bandages. You still talk too much, Asuma commented. With Naruto. Would you please stop throwing needles at me? It's getting really tiring. The Hunter Nin's sweat dropped. Naruto made a grab for the Hunter Nin again when he slipped back into his mirrors. I'm afraid this battle has gone on enough. This has to end. Oh, come on. We were just getting to the good part. Throwing two kunai, the Hunter Nin easily dodged, but felt his eyes widened as his mask was spilt in half. But how did he? Oh, every time we clashed, I kept breaking a piece of your mask off. I'm kind of surprised you never noticed till now. The Hunter Nin made no attempt to cover his face as it was revealed. Naruto's cocky face was wiped off his face when the Hunter Nin was revealed to be none than Haku. Wow, I didn't see that coming. With Asuma and Zabuza. Asuma bit his lip as he tried keeping his mind focused solely on his fight. He couldn't help but notice as Shikamaru moved to keep behind in order to protect Tazuna, while Naruto had began to engage with the Hunter Nin. Wait, when did Naruto arrive on the scene? His distraction gave Zabuza the opportunity to charge at him as Asuma looked away for a second. Asuma blocked the blade with one hand as he came his attention on Shikamaru. Eyes widening, Asuma rushed over to Shikamaru. Shikamaru, move Tazuna now. Tazuna and Shikamaru ducked under Zabuza's big sword as Asuma kicked Zabuza back onto the lake. The two of them engaged again a taijutsu fight as Shikamaru moved to protect and clam down Tazuna again. Come on, Zabuza, let's talk this out. Zabuza ignored him and opting to attacking him again. The others looked up in awe as they watched the two go at it. Naruto and the Hunter Nin weren't fighting at moment, but they were still tense. Shino stood off at a distance, wrapping his bandages quickly. With Naruto and Haku. That is indeed a troubling story, Haku, but I can't let you complete your mission.
Haku nodded.
Shino watched them get into their battle positions. Maybe we could have been friends in a different lifetime, Naruto-san. Naruto nodded. Yeah, in a different lifetime maybe. Secret technique. Demonic mirroring ice crystals. Mirrors starting forming around Naruto in a 21 formation. Naruto groaned as he found himself surrounded. Haku appeared in all the mirrors at once, wearing an emotionless mask. Naruto tried punching through the nearest mirror, but to his great surprise, it wasn't affected in the slightest. That trick won't work twice with me. That was unfortunate. Naruto rubbed his palm gently as he stared at the multiple Hakus. Haku began throwing kunai at Naruto as tried his best to dodge them. On a few occasions, Naruto was able to pull a limb out of a mirror, but it would turn out to be a water clone and not the real Haku. This began to irritate Naruto. 5 minutes later, the battle, if one could call it that, was rather one-sided. Naruto saw no way how he could be on the offensive, when Haku partially had been defensive and offensive against him the whole time. The only thing that worked against him was nothing. That surely helped a lot, though, Naruto. However, he did begin to notice something about Haku's movements. They were getting slower and sloppier. That must mean he's running out of churka, which was a bad good thing depending on you look at it. If he's low on churka, then that gives me an opportunity to attack, but that might make him desperate as well. Suddenly, an idea struck Naruto. There's no way this can fail, hopefully. Forming his hands in a cross, he shouted out, "Shadow Clone Justu!" Dozens of Narutos appeared in the area. They began to crush all the mirrors around them, forcing Haku to create more, and keep moving in case of them got to close. Enough. Secret technique. 1,000 flying water needles of death jutsu. All of the Narutos watched gather water from the crushed mirrors. They were momentarily stunned as they transformed into 1,000 long needles. None of the clones was able to get away as hit them at vital area at high speed. Haku of course was safe being in his mirrors, so he didn't have to worry getting caught in the crossfire. Smoke was soon covering the area as all the clones were popped. When the smoke finally cleared, Haku narrowed his eyes at seeing nothing. The needles had got rid of the clones, but there was one question still left. Where was Naruto? Crystal release. Twin tornadoes. Haku felt a stinging pain in his shoulder before he realized that his mirror had been crushed. Then it dawned on him. The clones and the smoke. Haku gave a little smile as he opened his eyes. When did he close them? There was a hole in his shoulder no bigger than his fist, but it stung like crap. You used the clones as a distraction, then used the smoke to keep my attention on the ground, making me think you were still among them. Even when the smoke cleared, I didn't think about looking up. Silence. A plan so simple. I shouldn't seen it coming, but that's probably why you used it. So simple, I wouldn't thought about that. To be honest, I just didn't want to hit by those needles. Haku and Naruto shared a laugh at that. Both boys were panting as they laid on the ground together. Asuma and Zabuza were still going at it, but as far as they were concerned, they were done. That last technique had taken a lot out of both of them. Haku could barely lift his head, let alone fight. They watched as the remaining mirrors changed to water as Haku ran out of churka. So, I think that means I won.
Haku smirket.
I just let you win. With Asuma and Zabuza. I can't believe Haku lost to that little shrimp. Zabuza shook his head. Asuma was bleeding in a few places, but Zabuza wasn't fresh either. His shoulder was cut pretty badly. His body was growing tired, but this was the most fun he had in a long time. There was no way he could give up so quickly. He watched as Asuma charged at him head-on. Forming head seals, he began to back up as Asuma sent another strong gust of wind to him. Using his sword to protect him from most of the damage, we was still pushed back. Water release. Water gun jutsu. A torrent of water burst out of Zabuza's mouth, catching Asuma by surprise. Using his hands to block most of the water, Asuma still ended up looking like a drowned rat. His mood darkened as his cigarette got soggy as well. Taking out his trench knives, he began charging them with wind energy. Seeing his chance, Zabuza charged, pushing Asuma back. Asuma used one arm to block, and the other to slash against Zabuza's stomach. It connected and made a bloody gash, but Zabuza only smiled. You're going to have to do better if you think that's going to make me stay down. Zabuza began applying pressure as Asuma flipped backwards. Asuma went in closer a few times, nicking Zabuza in his thigh and legs. They were smaller and less clean than the first gash, but they were still in vital places. Asuma began rolling around on the water, dodging both Zabuza's sword and his jutsu. He launched a kick, managing to catch Zabuza in the chin. Zabuza only grabbed his leg and tossed to the side like a bag of potatoes. Asuma grunted as water flooded his nose and ears. Standing on shaking legs, Asuma coughed up water. Maybe I'll smoke one less pack when I get back home, he suggested. Zabuza only laughed in amusement. That's if you beat me. They began charging at each other when another person entered the area. Zabuza. Both men stopped charging at each other, and Asuma did a backflip for good measure as they turned to face the newcomer. With Naruto and Haku. Naruto and Haku were leaning against each other as they watched Asuma fight Zabuza. On occasion one of them would make a comment, but for the most part they were resting. Who knew when they had to fight again? Zabuza. Damn. The two teens watched a short fat man walk over to their respective sensei. Either one missed all the thugs behind them. One of his arms were in a cast, and Naruto figured the man was either very clumsy or he pissed someone off. He was leaning toward the latter. Zabuza leaned on his sword, breathily heavily. Gato, what's the meaning of this? Can't you see I'm busy at the moment? Haku and Naruto sweat dropped. Despite the both of them being a considerable distance away, Naruto and Haku could hear the adults clear as day. Listen about our deal, Zabuza. I need the money right now, so I've got to cut a few people loose. You and that little brat being one of them. I hope you don't mind. For added measure, Gato spat in Haku's direction as he walked behind his thugs once again. Look at you hiding behind your little thugs, Gato. Do you really think you can beat me? Gato snorted. Don't listen to him. He's wounded and exhausted. Kill him. The thugs hesitated for a second before charging at Zabuza. Glancing at Asuma, Zabuza glanced at him, holding up one finger as if to say, "One moment, please." Asuma held up his hand, stepping back. The others watched Zabuza stumble towards the thugs with his sword raised high. He sliced through the first wave of thugs easily. The second wave of thugs faltered slightly but didn't do much damage anyways. The thugs who did manage to do something stuck anything in Zabuza's body in hopes of killing him. Boy, were they out of luck. By the time the last thug had either fled or been killed, Gato was left alone. He was babbling something, but Zabuza wasn't having any of it. Still, Gato tried his best to appease and bargain with Zabuza, but as he raised his sword above his head, he screamed. All of people turned their heads at the sight of Zabuza's one-man slaughter. He was panting heavily, and blood was dripping heavily down his arms and backs. Stumbling, Naruto helped Haku over to Zabuza. Naruto, they are still our enemies. Haku's my friend, sensei. Like any other friend, I'm gonna help him. 30 seconds later,
Zabuza-sama.
I'll fix you up, like before, and you'll win the next battle. Zabuza shook his head. No, Haku, you and I both know that's not going to work. I've lost too much blood already. To think I was starting to have fun too. Zabuza gently wiped off Haku's tears as Naruto stared at the other direction. Smoker guy, take care of Haku, for me. Everyone had a moment of silence as they heard another commotion to the far left. Naruto looked over his shoulder as a bunch of villagers and Inari walked over the bridge. Shikamaru carried Shino over to Tazuna, who had walked over to Inari. You're a little late, Inari. A week later, everyone was resting around Tazuna's house as the sun was settling down. The next day was the day Team 8 was leaving Wave. Naruto had been consoling Haku over Zabuza's death for the past week, but the boy was heartbroken. For the past week, Asuma had been resting and smoking as he watched the bridge get complete. 2 days after Zabuza's death, Naruto and Haku had buried Zabuza not too far from the bridge. Haku had left his sword on his gravestone. Naruto-san, do you think Zabuza-sama is safe wherever he is? Naruto nodded, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. What are you going to do now, Haku? Haku shrugged his shoulders. I think I might stay here for a while. Zabuza-sama wouldn't approve of me moping around about his death. I see what you're saying. I think you'll be fine, Haku. You'll be fine as well, Naruto-san. I'm sure of it. With Team 8. Shino was wrapped in bandages, but they couldn't be seen since his jacket hid them. The team was hurrying back home, since their mission took longer than they had expected. Naruto's head was stuck in some book Haku had given him, and Shikamaru was just happy there was finally some quiet. Asuma walked in front of them, pushing them to pick up the pace before nightfall. The day was perfect and he wanted to take advantage of it. His students were still tired from the training they did last night, but they were ninjas. They were going to have a harder time in actual combat. It was best they got through it now before it proved fatal. Besides, he had a special day planned just for them when they got back home. They wouldn't see what hit them. 8 hours later, due to Asuma's constant nagging, they were at least 1 day from Konoha. The boys had taken this time to rest and lean against the trees. Naruto adjusted his headband, as Asuma ordered him to get some extra firewood. When Naruto protested, Asuma nearly kicked him in the butt. It's either that, or we're going to get cold tonight. Grumbling, Naruto settled toward the surrounding woods. It really wouldn't make a difference to him, since he was usually a little cold anyway. Ever since he had unlocked his new ability, he had found himself to be more slightly colder than his comrades. He could create crystals to defend himself and, among other things, Even though he could make crystals, that didn't mean he could actually control it 100% of the time. Therefore, when the bandit jumped out of the shadows, Naruto had instinctively shielded his face and stomach. Unfortunately for the bandit, he was soon covered in crystal. Asuma and the others ran toward him as they heard a shrill scream coming from the direction Naruto had disappeared from. Asuma inspected the bandit, rubbing his chin in thought. Shikamaru had placed his hands on his hips, shaking his head. He opened his mouth to say something, but Shino had beaten him to it. Asuma-sensei asked you to get firewood, not crystallize an idiot. Naruto snorted. Yeah, Shino, like I was looking around in the forest trying to find someone to freeze. Skip the firewood. I wanted to freeze someone who had tried to steal from me. The two boys stared at each other for a minute, before shrugging their shoulders. Asuma's sweat dropped as they dropped the subject. Still, Shikamaru asked one question that was on their minds. Is he dead? Asuma tapped on the crystal before shrugging his shoulders. It doesn't appear that he is, but I can't say for sure. Naruto stood on the side, fidgeting. I didn't mean to freeze him, but he attacked me first. I didn't think it would freeze him like this. Asuma placed a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder, still stroking his chin. Asuma signed as he ordered the boys back to the camp. Firewood forgotten. Pulling a scroll out of his pocket, he silently sealed the bandit in said scroll. Naruto's new ability was dangerous if he couldn't control his emotions. Naruto meant well, and it seems that this bandit had just picked the wrong person to rob. It might have costed him his life. With Naruto and the others, Naruto silently stared at the dimming fire, thinking about that bandit. His thoughts were similar to his sensei's, but a thought popped into Naruto's head. Grabbing a piece of paper, he wrote it down before he forgot it. He made a note to himself to train at a watery training ground when he returned to Konoha. Shino and Shikamaru paid the blonde no attention as they continued their game. Shikamaru signed as he messed up the board again, ignoring the strange looks from his teammates. We can play again if you like. I'm going to bed. Naruto laughed as Shino rearranged the pieces. Next morning, unlike yesterday, the wind was blowing hard, making it hard for Team 8 to reach their destination. Shikamaru was mumbling about last night's loss, while Shino was petting one of his insects. Naruto smiled as the familiar gates of Konoha greeted them. For the first time in a while, Shikamaru began running. Naruto would have laughed if he wasn't busy running with him. He heard his sensei laughing behind them, but Naruto could tell he was happy too. The guards at the gates checked their IDs as they eyed the returning genin. Asuma joined them a few minutes later, as Shikamaru began arguing with one of the guards. He really wanted to get back home. After a few minutes of explaining their mission and saying they were just returning, the guards left them through. Asuma refused to let them go home before they checked in with the Hokage. They groaned and mumbled under their breaths, but followed their sensei nonetheless. Hokage Tower, 10 minutes later. Naruto was more mature than some people gave him credit for, but he was not in the mood to have Asuma-sensei explain their mission. He had lived through it. He was there. Why did they have to sit through this torture? Moreover, Naruto didn't miss the looks the Hokage sent him when Asuma told him Naruto had unlocked a new bloodline. Asuma had finally finished debriefing the Hokage when the door had been opened. Team 8 stared at the newcomers and made room for them as their sensei walked forward. The man held silver defying gravity hair, and his headband was covering part of his face. The lower half was covered by a gray mask. He seemed surprised that Team 8 was still there. It seems that you took too long in explaining things, Asuma. Again, we'll continue with your team later. Team 8 began walking toward the door, greeting the other team before the Hokage called out to them. Asuma, Naruto, I want a full report on it tomorrow. Naruto nodded as he knew it was referring to his ability. Yes, sir. Later that day. So, Asuma-san, what's this it that Hokage-sama was talking about earlier? Asuma signed. He should have known that Kakashi would be interested in his former sensei's son development. You'll see, Kakashi-san. I'd best be on my way. I have to train my students early in the morning, and I don't want to be tired when I'm roughing them up a bit. Kakashi gave him an eye smile. With Naruto, his eyes were closed and his face was calm. His nose began to twitch as he balanced himself on the tree stump. Asuma had given them the day off, opting to train them into the ground early next morning. Much to Naruto's disappointment, Asuma had planned on going on another mission soon. He liked missions, but he missed home as well. Not to mention he wanted to figure out his ability. They were interrupted earlier by that one-eyed Jonin, but Naruto still wanted to train on his own. Asuma-sensei had left them to pick up that special package he had talked about back in Wave. He had this happy look on his face that Naruto really didn't like. He pushed his teammates in the back of his mind as he tried concentrating again. That frozen bandit had played a part in this. Naruto knew that he had to fight against his instincts, lest he do it again. He wouldn't want to accidentally freeze any of his comrades, unless it was someone he didn't like too much. Still, the bandit was frozen in an array of jumbled shapes mixed together. He wanted to create something a lot smoother and round. He kept picturing a prism in his mind, and he soon felt the familiar sense of cold flooding his body. His body cooled before heating up again. 3 minutes later, opening his eyes, he found himself staring at himself. Looking around, he smiled. He found himself locked in an orange prism. The sun was beaming at him, but the prism reflected most of it. Naruto found himself smiling and screaming for joy as he did it. It wasn't what he had planned for in the beginning, but this worked too. I'll call it Crystal Release, Prism Chamber. He paused. That's not the most creative name, but it'll do. Now how do I get out of here? He wailed for a minute as he found out that the prism was very durable. Closing his eyes, he focused again, but only found himself falling to the ground. He wasn't nearly out of chakra, but his chakra control wasn't the best, so he used more chakra than he should have. He waited for what felt like hours before the prism finally collapsed. He watched in slight awe as the prism dissolved into tiny orange crystals. Despite the issue of not knowing how to cancel the jutsu when he wanted to, Naruto was still excited. Plopping onto soft ground, his chest raised and lowered at a fast pace as he stared at the sky. He could figure why Shikamaru liked looking at the sky. He felt calm and at peace, not to mention sleepy. Naruto. Naruto's head shot up as he steadied himself on his own 2 feet. Looking to his left, he watched a fair-skinned girl around his age walk towards him with slow, confident steps. She had sparkling green eyes and long platinum blonde hair. Most of her hair was in a high ponytail with bangs covering the right side of her face. It reached down to her waist and he noticed 3 other people. Naruto smiled as Ino gave him a curious look. She eyed him up and down as he scratched the back of his head. I'm sorry, is this your team's training ground? Ino nodded. Her sensei Kurenai smiled gently at our young blonde hero as he picked up his scattered books. Ino bent down to pick one up, reading the cover aloud. How to make crystals for dummies. Naruto, what are you doing with something like this? Naruto wasn't supposed to tell anybody about his special ability just yet, so he only smiled at Ino with a carefree grin. Oh, nothing. I like reading about crystals in my spare time. Sounded lame, but hey, it worked. Kurenai-sensei laughed but didn't seem to really believe him. But he went along with it since she didn't question him about it. It was nice seeing you again, Ino-chan, Hinata-san, Kiba-san. It was nice meeting you, Kurenai-sensei. Bowing lightly, he jogged across the field, leaving the others behind him. Next morning, Asuma greeted his students as they walked closer to the training field. Naruto stood behind Shino as Asuma gestured them forward. Asuma was holding his hands behind his back as they stopped walking. He closed the distance smiling as he held out small bracelets with a number on it. Stepping closer, Naruto saw a small 10 on there. He gulped as Asuma revealed 3 pairs. 1 for each of them. Boys, these are the special things I was talking about back in Wave. I had them made while we were away. I kept thinking to myself, Asuma, how can you make their lives a living hell? Then I thought of this. Amazing, isn't it? Just perfect, sensei. Handing a set to each person, Asuma clapped his hands together. Alright then, place 1 on each ankle. Be careful. Those weights are heavier than what they look like. 5 minutes later. Okay, is everyone ready? A chorus of groans was his only answer as he frowned at them. Alright, we'll get started with you guys running 15 laps around Konoha. I'll add 2 more every time you start to slack off. Go! Therefore, Team 8 ran around their hometown like madmen, trying their hardest not to upset their sensei. By the time they finished the laps, it was already noon. These weights are heavier than I thought, Naruto thought as he pulled himself off the ground. Asuma-sensei walked towards the boys laughing. Sitting with them on the ground, he explained the schedule for the week. Today was training muscles and speed. Tomorrow would be endurance and stamina, while Wednesday and Friday would be team exercises. Saturday was clean sensei's house day. What about Thursday and Sunday? Asked Shino. The young Aburame was exhausted like his teammates, but was in slightly better condition. Thursday and Sunday are your off days. I'll let you guys take a breather, and then I'll pummel you on Friday. Sunday is a rest day. Oh, how kind of you. Shikamaru glared at Asuma as the man got to his feet. Alright, that's enough rest. Give me 100 push-ups and sits-up each. The longer you take, the more I'll add on. Go! They immediately began doing push-ups as Asuma summoned 2 clones. All 3 of them placed a foot on each boy's back, applying pressure. By applying pressure, Asuma made the boys use more energy and strength. Tired the boys out quicker, but it made them stronger. Slowly but surely. Shino was the first one completed, and began on his sit-ups as Naruto finished his last sit-up. Shikamaru was the last one of them to finish his push-ups but made up the time difference with his sit-ups. Keep working, ladies. I might add another 100 push-ups if you keep slacking off like this. Sir, yes sir. Don't you think you're pushing them a little too far, Asuma? Came a soft voice. Asuma ordered the boys to keep going as he turned to the newcomers. Kurenai stared at the boys with hands on her hips as her team looked on from behind her at Team 8. Kakashi and his team appeared behind them moments later. Asuma turned to the boys and saw that Shikamaru had collapsed while Naruto and Shino were starting to slow down. Did I say you could stop? You guys must want another 100 push-ups. That got their attention. Like he was being chased by demons, Shikamaru began doing his sit-ups with new vigor. Naruto and Shino had resumed their previous pace. Satisfied, Asuma turned back to the others. Not really. I'd like to think I was helping them in my own special way. Asuma heard snorts behind him. Kakashi's head wasn't buried in his book as usual, but he was eyeing Asuma carefully. But you're going to kill them in your own special way. Asuma snorted. They've been through worse. This time there was no noise from his team. They all thought back to the mission in Wave. Naruto and I are done, sensei. Shikamaru's only has 10-9-8-7-6. About 5 left. Okay, now he is done. Asuma nodded. Okay, you get a 30-minute break. To the others, a 30-minute break didn't seem like a long time, but to Team 8 it was the best gift they could ever have. That reminds me, Naruto, you're going to be late with your meeting with the Hokage. We'll work on your areas tomorrow then. Shikamaru, you get to spend extra time with me today. Naruto laughed as Shikamaru punched him in the arm. You're welcome, lazy pineapple. Shut up, fish cake. Hokage Tower. As Naruto walked to the Hokage's tower, he thought about what had transpired in the past few months. He managed to unlock a cool thingy. He defeated a Chunin-level ninja and passed the evil academy. He got placed on a team with an evil sensei, lazy genius, and an obsessed bug boy. And in the past 3 months, he only had ramen 5 times. While that was good for his wallet, it was torture for his soul. Personally, he blamed Asuma for that. He even had the nerve to talk to Naruto about his eating habits. You shouldn't eat ramen every day. You'll die before you're 18. Asuma could only gawked at Naruto as he had swiftly replied with, Your point is? I would have died happy and full. And broke. Let's just focus on the positives here. Naruto was so busy caught up in his memories, he didn't realize that he was standing in front of the Hokage's office. Knocking twice on the wooden door, he heard an old and familiar voice give him permission to come in. Have a seat, Naruto. Sarutobi was in his late 60s, and he realized not for the first time in a while was getting old. However, since the death of his successor, not many people could stack up to him in comparison. He would have liked to hand over the title to someone else, but the process was taxing and caused even more paperwork. Now, since these days were peaceful now, The only excitement he had was reading his students' suggestive novels. So when he was told that Naruto might have unlocked a new bloodline, he was thrilled and beaming with happiness. At least until he saw the amount of paperwork he had to fill out. 5 minutes later. And that's how it happened. Naruto started scratching the back of his head as he watched Sarutobi scratch his chin. After a few minutes of pondering, Sarutobi leaned back into his chair. I see. You have unlocked a very rare bloodline, Naruto-kun. The wielders call it the crystal release style. Naruto's sweat dropped. I figured that part out a while ago, Gigi. But does it allow me to do anything special? I don't know about that. Crystal users are extremely rare. I have only heard of them in passing. I'm afraid you'll have to find and make any techniques yourself, Naruto-kun. Naruto wailed as he pulled his hair against his scalp. Crap. Well, thanks anyway, Gigi. I'd best get back to my training with the others. Naruto brushed dirt off his pants as a blur ran past him. Today I will be Hokage, old man. Naruto watched a small blue blur run past him as he turned around. A boy no older than 8 wore a yellow shirt with the Konoha symbol, with gray shorts and the longest blue scarf in the world. He pointed a finger at the Hokage with a look of determination on his face. Unfortunately, that long scarf turned out to be his downfall. The kid tripped on the scarf, lost his balance and landed flat on his face. Naruto couldn't help but let out a snicker. Well, that's a lie. He busted out laughing and fell on his side. Gathering himself quickly, he placed a hand over his mouth to express sympathy with the fallen boy. Honorable grandson, are you okay? A tall man with black shades and a bandana wrapped around his head ran into the room with a huff as the honorable grandson picked himself off the ground. The new guy had his forehead protector on his bandana but didn't wear the flak jacket like most ninja did. He ignored Naruto, completely rushing over to the little boy. You must have tripped me. The boy yelled at Naruto. Naruto only raised an eyebrow. But you tripped yourself. No, you tripped the honorable grandson. But you tripped yourself. I don't understand this. Gigi, didn't you see this brat just trip himself? Both boys looked to the old and wise Hokage, who was busy staring out the window.
I'm sorry.
Did you boys say something? Everyone's sweat dropped. Naruto shook his head as he headed to the door, ignoring the boys' protests. The man Ebisu tried advising the honorable grandson not to worry himself about Naruto and his ways. A background of rainbows and the sun suddenly materialized behind Ebisu as he pumped his fist in the air. Just stick with me, honorable grandson, and you'll reach your dream dash. He just left, you know. The Hokage waved to the empty spot next to Ebisu. Crap. 5 minutes later. Naruto signed as he thanked the cashier and grabbed his groceries. He still had time to get back to training and save Shikamaru, but he decided to stop at the market for a minute. There was no need to rush back so quickly. However, that wasn't the problem at the moment. Hey kid, I know you're there. I can see you clearly. A few people stared at him as if he was crazy before a small rock moved towards him. Naruto hit the rock on the top, hearing a small yelp. The kid from earlier appeared moments later, grumbling under his breath, as he tossed the fake rock in the trash. You must be a strong ninja if you could detect my invisibility cloak. Naruto snorted, shrugging his shoulders. A baby would have seen through your fake invisibility cloak. Next time, make sure your rock doesn't have eye holes. Also, rocks don't move. The boys stood there shocked as Naruto walked on without missing a beat. Naruto had walked a few more feet before turning back to him. Are you coming or not? That teacher of yours sounds like he's getting close. The two boys hurried on as they began hearing Ebisu's voice among the crowd. Honorable grandson, where are you? 10 minutes later. Naruto and the other boy were sitting near the training grounds and far away from that crazy teacher. The area was silent except for the chirping birds and the rustling playful squirrels. Naruto sat against the nearest tree to the running stream, leaving the other boy on the other side of the field. He sat in the shadows, resting his legs for the moment. He eyed Naruto carefully as he was motioned over to the stream. You know, he began. I never got a name besides honorable grandson, and I'm definitely not calling you honorable anything. Naruto leaned back, his back nearing touching the stream. The boy smiled. He sat next to Naruto. Konohamaru. Konohamaru Sarutobi. Naruto only hummed. That's why that closet pervert called you honorable grandson. The now identified Konohamaru laughed at Naruto's nickname for Ebisu. The pair fell silent again, as the birds flew off to another area. After another few minutes of silence, Konohamaru broke down as Naruto listened quietly. He told Naruto of how he was tired of being not acknowledging him for him, and only with a title. If being Hokage means people only know my title and not me my name as a person, then I don't see why people want the position so badly. Naruto hummed quietly before placing a hand on Konohamaru's shoulder. There are always going to be people who don't see you as a person, but only as a tool or thing. Forget about those kinds of people. Instead, focus on the people in your life who care about the real you. Becoming Hokage isn't about the power or the position itself. It's about protecting the people and things you love. Think about it. You sound like my grandpa. Of course I do. I'm just a cuter, younger, and smarter version. Think of me as the 2.0 version or something. That's why I'll become the Hokage before you, Naruto said as he pointed a finger at Konohamaru, who only shook his head. I'll beat you. Believe it. I don't think so, if you go around stealing other people's catchphrases. I mean, that's just plain rude. Later that day, Naruto walked back to the training grounds, having walked Konohamaru home in order to make time go by faster. By the time he had reached the training grounds, Shikamaru was sitting under the shade, knocked out and bruised all over. He'll live, he muttered to himself. Shino limped over to him as he shouted to the group. Kakashi and Kurenai's teams were long gone as well. It was almost 6 o'clock. Asuma decided to end training for the day, leaving Shino and Naruto carrying Shikamaru home. Well, more like Naruto carrying Shikamaru. "Dou-me a favor, can you carry him? My body is sore all over. Besides, he's not that heavy." What a poor excuse. At least that's what Naruto was thinking. Despite common belief, Shikamaru was heavier than Choji. He just looked like he was skinny. This is the worst kind of favor you could ever ask someone. You're lucky we're teammates. It'll be alright, fish cake. Training ground next morning. Shikamaru hadn't forgiven Naruto for leaving him in the first place and stopped training long enough to kick him in the butt. Naruto smacked his lazy friend on the head as he collapsed next to him in the dirt. Asuma was nowhere to be seen, so they could take a well-deserved break for about 1 minute and 20 seconds before they were kicked awake. Just for that, all 3 of you ladies get 100 more push-ups. Get to it. They dropped to the ground again and worked with a vigor that Mike Guy would be proud of. The 3 genin swallowed their cries of pain as Asuma sat on them. I took all 3 of them to lift his weight and all 3 of them to work together. Asuma ignored the 3 cries or whimpers and waved to Kakashi and his team. He felt one of them give out and the rest faltered. Did I say that you could stop? You must want to add another 100 push-ups. They began working again as he sipped on a bottle of water. If you 3 aren't done in 5 minutes, then I'll add another 20 for every minute you're late. By the end of the morning, the 3 boys' muscles were sore beyond belief, and they barely had any energy left over to eat. Naruto stuffed his face in his ramen and ate that way as the others struggled to lift their sandwiches to their mouths. Asuma sat by whistling while drinking some water and pork ramen. Clapping his hands, he got the boys ready for a sparring match. By this time, Shino and Naruto had recovered halfway, while Shikamaru was out like a light. He would face whoever won the battle. Begin. Shino charged head-on at Naruto, who merely step-sided a kick and aimed one of his own at Shino's midsection. Shino groaned but instead grabbed Naruto's foot and swung Naruto around before sending him flying through the trees. Naruto quickly placed one foot on a tree before pushing himself off in the trees. Asuma continued whistling as Shino took to the trees as well. Shikamaru briefly woke up, went to the bathroom, and found some more rest in the shaded area. A yelp was heard in the area as a bright flash of orange flew past him and into the dirt. A cloud of smoke revealed that it was only a clone. Shikamaru glanced up at his 2 sparring teammates and groaned. Couldn't a hard-working pineapple get some rest? Back with Naruto and Shino. Asuma gave the boys a 5-minute limit, and so far 3 minutes had passed. They were both hiding behind a tree, panting hard. Naruto summoned 2 clones, directing each one in a different direction. It was time to end this. Naruto cursed as one clone was popped by some of Shino's insects. The second clone popped less than 2 seconds later. Naruto quickly made 3 more clones and climbed higher into the trees. Shino, on the other hand, was quickly gaining ground and nearly caught Naruto's ankle before he felt his side collide with unforgiving bark. He let out a groan before pushing himself off the tree, looking around for Naruto. He caught one clone's foot and swung him into the other. Crystal release. Twin dragons. Orange twin-shaped dragon heads speared Shino in his stomach, tearing through his jacket. Shino switched himself with a log before he felt himself being kicked to the ground. Time. Winner Naruto. Loser Shino. Come on Shino, you're slacking off. Remind me to give you an extra 30 push-ups later. Shino scowled and looked at the remains of his jacket and gave Naruto a death glare. Naruto sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. You are so getting me a new one. All right Shikamaru, it's your turn. I'll take a rain check. Now pineapple. 20 minutes later. The result was inevitable. Shikamaru threw Naruto a bowl of ramen and won easily. All right, you've had a good break. I've yet to show you the second part of your surprise. No waits this time, unfortunately. The others didn't allow a smile to their faces as Asuma took a puff of his cigarette. Asuma handed each of his students a box and held his arms open for a hug. Shino found himself with a pair of medium-sized kama newly sharpened and a cloth to clean them with. There was a manual and a bottle of oil as well. Inwardly, he groaned as the directions said polish the blades every 6 months and clean after every use. Shikamaru received a wooden bow staff, which he didn't hesitate in hitting Naruto in the head with. He found a small chip in the staff, which allowed him to break it into 2 pieces and then put back together for a longer reach. The staff was the perfect shade as the trees, so he could probably trip someone when they walked by and they would never know. Man, I am spending too much with Naruto, he thought. Finally, Naruto received a red hilt kodachi and yellow hilt katana. He strapped the katana to his back and slid the kodachi in his pack on his ankle. Shikamaru leaned on his staff and accidentally hit Shino in the back of the head to regain his balance. Naruto was the first to notice their sensei still had his arms out, waiting for a hug, but he didn't receiving anything more except for a thank you and a hot bowl of ramen. Poor Asuma. Keep these in a safe spot. You'll begin training with them when we return from our mission. Report to the Hokage's office at 8 tonight for more information. Understood. Sir, yes, sir. Later that night. Unlike last time, the Hokage could see and feel the change within Asuma's team. The boys had lost much of their naivete and ignorance of being ninjas. They were still children, but there was a new toughness about them that he could feel. He handed Asuma the scroll containing their mission and swirled around in his chair, puffing some smoke out of his pipe. His heart dropped every time he sent out children like Team 8 on higher-ranked missions, but this was their job. It was either do or die. With Team 8, all right team, here's the mission. Shino and Naruto are a sub-team, while Shikamaru and I are another team. If we get attacked, then switch to Plan B. Our main goal is to investigate strange occurrences near Wave Country. Detain any enemy if possible. If not, kill immediately. I'll explain more in detail when we get there. Understood. Yes, sir. All right, we'll meet here at 6 a.m. sharp on the dot. Don't be late or you'll have to catch up to us. Is that clear? Sir, yes, sir. Good, dismissed. With Team 8. Team 8 was heading out on the road once again. Unlike his lazier teammates, Naruto was hoping for a more exciting mission that didn't end up with him severely injured like last time. He was bouncing on the soles of his feet as the group took to the trees. Asuma-sensei took a drag from his cigarette as he surveyed the area. Shino handed their supplies to Shikamaru, who grumbled under his breath, but tucked the supplies away in some sealing scrolls before placing those in his bag. Asuma-sensei picked up the pace again after a 10-minute break. Asuma turned to them, raising his voice. In case we get ambushed on our way, we'll have to split up. The others nodded. The team was in a square formation with Asuma in front of Naruto with Shikamaru behind Shino. Shino immediately switched positions with Shikamaru as a crowd of birds swarmed around them. Shino did a few hand signs, not putting a lot of churka in his attack. Fire release. Flamethrower jutsu. The birds scattered as the flames licked at their wings. Asuma and Shikamaru kept moving forward as Naruto and Shino slowed down. Naruto turned with his back to Shino as they moved to the ground. "We'll meet up with you guys later," Naruto called to them, as he and Shino slowed down even further and waited for the enemy to come to them. There was a poof of smoke before another Naruto was seen next to them. The second Naruto dropped to the ground with Shino. With Shino and Naruto, Shirono stood with his back to the Naruto clone, still for a moment. A faint rustling in a nearby bush made both of them bristle. Naruto tossed a kunai, a small thud echoing throughout the clearing. Naruto flipped out another two as moved towards the sound. They saw Naruto's kunai embedded in a log. Shino made a little motion with his left hand as Naruto roughly pulled the kunai out. Shino took to the trees as spikes erupted from the ground. Naruto's body moved on pure instinct and adrenaline as two kunais whistled through the air. He easily blocked them as Shino moved towards the enemy. Swarms of bugs surrounded the area before a wave of fire blew them away effortlessly. Shino immediately recalled the survivors and quickly moved towards Naruto. Shino ducked as Naruto jumped over him. A quick glance shared between them as Naruto landed a kick against the assailant chest, who merely smirked before there was a poof of smoke. There was a cry, then silence. The enemy nin shot from the bushes as Shino jumped to another branch, hiding behind the bark. His eyes widened. He flipped backwards from the nin, easily parrying the incoming fist, and kicked him in the stomach, sending him back into the clearing. The two exchanged blows before a familiar blonde boy made his presence known. Crystal release. Twin tornadoes. Before the nin could move, Shino grabbed another kunai and stabbed both of his kunais through the nin's pant legs, trapping him on both sides, before rolling away from Naruto's attack. The attack made a big impact in the area, startling the surrounding wildlife. Shino took cover by the trees that had been uprooted from their place. He kept himself low to the ground as the dust finally cleared. He rolled away from his spot and jumped back to the trees in order to get a better look above the others. By the time the dust had settled completely, Shino's eyes widened behind his shades. Naruto was bleeding out the side of his ears as the nin held him by the neck. His grip tightened for a minute, until Naruto's eyes rolled in the back of his head. Naruto's lifeless body was dropped to the ground in a lifeless heap of body and flesh. Another poof of smoke. Shino charged from his position, easily slipping a kunai from his pouch. The nin merely blocked and kicked him in the side as he turned into a shadow clone. The clone dispersed into insects as he emerged from the other side. The nin twisted his body as he adjusted to the new position while trying to ignore the bugs that were attacking him from all over. Shino applied more force to his blows as he looked around for Naruto.
Secret technique, spindle formation.
Insects swarmed the nin in a spiraling motion, immobilizing him. "This isn't going to hold me for long." The voice sounded feminine despite the attire the nin had decided to wear. Still, even if the enemy was a female, Shino was not going to go easy on her. "I'll make it work." With Shikamaru and Azuma, the first big boom made Shikamaru and Asuma give pause and look back, before they tightened their jaws and locked their bones. Shikamaru desperately wanted to go sprinting back and check on his friends, but he knew that he could not do such a thing. Asuma sent him a stern look as he turned his back on the others. They continued moving forward with their plan as accepted. The pair made it another 20 feet before hearing a second explosion throughout the area. This explosion was not as big as the first one, but that didn't still stop the pair from looking back. The two soon reached the border between the land of fire and the land of water. Crossing the border quickly, they traveled for another 3 hours before dusk began to fall. Asuma decided to call it a night for the two of them. They would be on the move again at first light. Shikamaru leaned against a tree, turning to face Asuma. "What about Naruto and Shino?" Asuma shrugged his shoulders. "We'll have to hope that they catch up with us by tomorrow. They're strong boys, remember." Shikamaru could only stare up at the shining stars in the sky. "I hope so." The next morning, both shinobi took to the trees the next morning. However, as they neared a coastal town, Asuma slowed down. He landed on the ground, waiting for a minute for Shikamaru to catch his breath. From here on, we'll split up. That sounds like a bad line from a cheesy horror movie. Asuma moved on, choosing to ignore the comment. I already have your cover story worked out. What about Naruto and Shino? Asuma frowned, not responding for a second. I'll be working in our hotel as the new manager from abroad, so if you see them, then send them my way. We have to figure out what happened to the other teams before we go rushing off looking for them. Shikamaru only nodded. With Shikamaru? Of course he had to give me the job that required the most work. Our pineapple-haired hero thought. Shikamaru was working as an angler whose father had recently died, and now he had to search for work in order to feed his surviving family members. Sensei's such a drama king, he thought. He was also already tired from working. He started 3 hours ago and was happy for once for enlisting as a ninja. He grumbled and kept his head down as he continued working. Most of the other anglers were big buff men in their 30s. They didn't take kindly to a boy half their age who worked and got paid as much as them. Talk about having a big ego. Still, there were some fishermen who didn't mind Shikamaru working there. Shikamaru decided to stick close to them. The sun was beginning to set and Shikamaru clocked out with the remaining fishermen. Most of them got off at 6, but Shikamaru worked for another few hours. Asuma wouldn't mind if he was a few minutes late. His eyes were scanning the area, looking for anything useful. His ears were trying to scan every conversion he could. But he still couldn't help but think about his teammates. He was a ninja, but… Shikamaru? The voice was muffled and raspy. Shikamaru looked around and noticed a boy around his age with familiar bushy hair. His eyes were hidden, but Shikamaru recognized the bugs crawling around the boy. Shino! Relief spread through Shikamaru's body as his friend raised his head. Shino's face was a mixture of black and blue. He had a red gash running from his forehead down to his left eye. Shikamaru wanted to ask his friend questions and shout with joy, but he managed to keep a cool head. He barely held it in all inside. The ninja that did this to Shino could still be around for all he knew, just sitting back and watching them like prey. While Shikamaru picked up the bruised and battered Shino, he noticed something rather disturbing. Shino, where's Naruto? With Naruto? Naruto gritted his teeth as he was transported across the forest floor. He was bound and gagged, but he was still making it hard for them to carry him. Where was Shino? Was he safe? Was he? Naruto shook his head. Shino was just as determined and strong as him. He was sure he was fine. Naruto sighed with relief when they decided to stop for a moment. They were 3 of them, at least alive. There had been 2 other Churkas in the area, so he left Shino with a clone and came across what he thought were lost kids. He sent another clone down to investigate when an exploding tag went off near his branch. He remembered a lot of numbness, but not much else. When he awoke, he was tied up. Naruto growled at the girl who merely stared at him. She came and left a couple of times, but mostly stayed out of sight. Her kimono was a little teal and bloodied in some areas. Her face was covered with a mask, but we could tell she was smiling under her breath. He wanted to knock that grin off her face so badly. You seem angry, little ninja. She keeled in front of him and removed the gag. He spit on her mask and shouted curses at her as one of the other ninjas moved over to him and kicked him in the back. Shut up, you little brat. Naruto turned his attention to the other boy and focused his glares on him. The boy backed away at the amount of killing intent that was leaking from Naruto's being. I'll make you pay if you've hurt my teammate. The girl chuckled, drawing his attention again. Oh? How are you going to do that tied up? It was time for Naruto to smirk. Never take your eyes off the sky. Confused, they looked up as Naruto placed both palms on the ground. Earth release, rotating spikes. The other nin jumped away as 3 large spikes erupted from the ground as a spike impaled one of the nin's legs and moved towards the 3 at alarming speeds. Naruto used the distraction by hastily lifting himself off the ground and engaged one of the nin in combat. The girl drew a kunai and slashed at his midsection. Naruto smirked and didn't make a move until the last few seconds, and turned around jumping above her. She paled as he sliced through his restraints. Naruto drew 2 kunai of his own and stabbed her through the shoulder and kicked her away. He used his new momentum to grab a branch and swing his way onto another tree. He easily parred the blade of the second nin, noticing the lack of identification. He headbutted the other boy and swept his legs from underneath him and kicked him off the tree. He didn't have to wait for that girl to attack him. She slipped through his guard and embedded a kunai into his healing shoulder. Naruto gritted his teeth, but grabbed the sleeve of her kimono as he fell backward and flipped them around. She flipped them around and kicked him in the back. His eyes widened at the pain, but he rolled out of the way. Crystal release. Jaded blade. He didn't move for a moment. His body moved out of the way of the purple crystallized blade as he quickly did his own technique. Crystal release. Twin dragon claws. An orange dragon roared to life from one hand that headed towards her. She sliced it easily off and sliced the second one off with ease as well. Naruto gritted his teeth as he sharpened his claws before attacking head-on. She used her right hand with the crystal blade to hold off his left claw, but slipped a kunai with an exploding tag on the ground. She stabbed a claw to the blade with her own blade and crystallized the area around his arm to hold him there before getting away. Only one thought was on Naruto's mind. Oh shit. The inn. Shino's body was scarred and bruised all over. He felt worse than he looked. His coat was messed up and his breathing was labored. His eyes were bloodshot and his hair had dry blood caked in it. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Where's Naruto? That one simple question had no answer. Shino went back to look for him, but he found no body. The ninja who had attacked them had left no trace of ever being there, but there was signs of at least 2 other ninjas in the area beside Naruto and Shino. Shino could tell they were either newbies as well or just plain careless. He followed the tracks to a river, which ruined his chances of finding Naruto as he stared at the calm water. He found Naruto's orange jacket, but it was torn in many pieces, which didn't help him feel better. He tried though. He felt like that was the least he could do. Shino's insects kept him awake as he trudged his way towards the town the team was supposed to meet up at. He was clutching his battered side as he moved on foot. He was in no shape physically or mentally to run through this unknown territory. His body was crying out for relief. He administered first aid to himself whenever he had a moment, but he was persistent to get to the town as soon as possible. I thought I'd kill you. Shino tensed as he launched a kunai in the voice's direction. The only thing he could do was lift himself off the ground and keep his eyes peeled for the voice. He readied another kunai and blocked an incoming slash against his rib cage. He rolled with the motion and struck out with a kick of his own. It struck air, but he followed up with a flip over the incoming shuriken. Shino quickly ducked below the assailant and wiped out his kodachi and reached for the assailant's throat, while trying to slit the person's throat. He was blocked, but managed to slice the person's kimono. You're persistent, all right. You remind me of that other teammate of yours. Shino's eyes narrowed behind his glasses. Where is he? His fists curled tighter around his fist as he kept his eyes on the person possible responsible for his teammate's disappearance. The girl shrugged her shoulders. I really don't know. I blew him up somewhere in that field. I never did find all the pieces. When I do, I'll ship them to you. I won't even charge you for the shipping fees. Shino let out an angry yell and charged. His slashes were quick, sloppy, and messy. He felt her grab his hair through his hood and toss him against a tree. He spit up blood, but he stood on his shaky legs and charged again. The girl only laughed, and moved out of his way and laughed with a smirk on her face as a kunai slipped out of her kimono. You're such a rookie, letting your emotions get the better of you. She stabbed him in the back. Shino let out a cry of both anger and pain. Shino collapsed on his hands and knees and cried out even more as he felt the knife go in even deeper. The girl twisted it, before pulling it out slowly. Shino felt his body being paralyzed and growled as he was unable to move. You're much more fun than that blonde boy. Shino felt his vision go black. She was gone again, but the pain wasn't. We clashed 2 more times before I reached the town, Shino said after finishing his story. I never saw any sign of Naruto on the way here, so I assumed that he was. Shikamaru quickly cut him off. You never found a body, right? Then you can't say that yet. Shino only signed. Asuma stood off to the side and hanged his head. Naruto was more than likely dead, but he didn't want to face that likely fact just yet. There was always hope with that kid. But Asuma took another puff from his cigarette. Either way, he still had 2 students under his command, and at least Shino had made it out of there in a ragged piece. Still, the thought of the mysterious person letting Shino go just like that was suspicious by all accounts. Asuma didn't find any trackers on the boy in any shape or form, so that was out. Asuma could only keep his senses alert. What did she look like? Shino pondered this for a moment. She wore a teal and short kimono. When I made that slash across her throat, I noticed that she was wearing a gray turtleneck underneath the kimono with a small pendant. It was a crystallized flower. A camellia to be specific. She also wore navy blue sandals. That's all I could remember. It was really foggy out there. And it was at night when she attacked me. Why did she let you go? Shino and Shikamaru seemed startled to hear their sensei's voice. He had stayed silent this whole time and was standing off in a corner. Shino looked down as the question was repeated. I don't know. Maybe she wanted me to remember this as a reminder. She seemed like a sadistic bitch. Asuma only hummed in response. He walked over to the boys and signed loudly. I think we'll let you rest then, Shino. Shikamaru, get back to your job before someone notices you missing. Shikamaru only quickly nodded and patted his teammate on the shoulder. It's nice to see you alive, Shino. Rest up. With that, he was gone. Asuma turned to Shino as he left the room. I agree with the lazy pineapple. Sleep peacefully. Asuma closed the door and signed again. These boys were going to be the death of him. With Shikamaru, working was good for Shikamaru. He had to focus more on his work and not worry about Shino's tale. He could still imagine one of his best friends being alive and not the other alternative. He knew they all knew that they were going to die someday, but to have it so abrupt and at this time wasn't thought of. They were a family. Heck, they were not even 20 yet. They were rookies, and whoever was after them was at least a high-level chunin with a whole more experience than Team 8, except probably Asuma. This was a sadistic and cruel person who was willing to play with people for the heck of it. For all they knew, Naruto could really be dead. Shikamaru burrowed himself in his work and worked twice as hard and fast. He wiped the sweat off his face and kept pushing his body even as the other workers went on their lunch break. Shikamaru was by himself. He kept thinking. Why couldn't he stop thinking for a moment? Why couldn't his mind go blank for once? Shikamaru punched a piece of wood in half. Back at the inn. It was nighttime now. Shikamaru's clothes were soaked and his face had tiny scratches. Asuma wasn't smoking at the moment and was instead sipping a cup of tea. He had his head cast down and Shikamaru couldn't blame him. The remaining members of Team 8 had miso soup for dinner silently. They all finished their soup before calling it a night. Asuma had a day off the next morning, so he spent the day collecting information on the case. He found the town's main hotspot on gossip since he had no other good leads. He still had to send that report for the Hokage later that evening as well. I heard that there are demons by that place. They say that they kidnapped a boy recently as well. Asuma's ears perked up. He needed to know the exact location for this place, and so far, he only knew of the general location. He signed and cracked his knuckles. He was doing a lot of signing recently. Stupid kids. He hinged himself into a pretty young girl with long blonde hair and baby blue eyes. She wore a short skirt and low tank top as she sauntered over to the gentleman's table. Being a pretty-looking girl was going to be a lot easier to get information compared to a big bearded guy. Asuma rubbed himself against one of the old men and signed deeply at the table of men. I heard you boys talking about demons over here. This place seems pretty quiet around here. Asuma put his best innocent look on his face and wrapped his arms around one of the men's neck. You'll protect me if they come for me, won't you? The other men quickly nodded. Of course, little lady. All you got to do is stay away from Old Man's Parish. Old Man's Parish? Where's that? The men shifted in their seats. We're not supposed to talk about it, little lady. But I do know something we can talk about. The men were eyeing him now, but Asuma needed to get a little more information out of them for another minute. Please, if you tell me more, I'll give you guys a very special present. It didn't take long for the men to change their minds. Asuma shook his head mentally at the thought of a certain white-haired man being even worse than these old men. All right then, they're this abandoned place near the edge of town. They say that weird things happen there. That demons live there. It's on the east side of the marshes. You can't miss it. Asuma swayed his hips as he walked around the table towards the door. She gave each guy a kiss on the cheek and walked towards the door. If any random stranger walked into that bar 3 minutes later, they would have seen a group of men snoring on the table with their beer empty, with shiny red lipstick on their cheeks. Job well done, Asuma. Later at the inn, Asuma and the others were gathered around a small table at the inn. The customers had fallen asleep already, so there were no worries of being overheard by one of them. Asuma was discussing the plan with Shikamaru and Shino quietly, in case someone was listening in. However, even if these people weren't cold-blooded ninja from a rivaling village, they just couldn't talk about their plans out loud. So they made it sound like it was a regular conversation about the upcoming day's events. Asuma cleared his throat as he pulled out his lighter. I heard Old Man Perry was throwing a party later this Thursday. In 2 days, we'll go pay a visit to Old Man's parish. Oh yeah? We'll meet you there. We'll follow you there later in order to avoid suspicion. All right, make sure that you don't leave too late. Be ready to get out soon. Got it. Have a nice night, Mr. Chan. Copy that, sensei. We'll stand by. Remember to be careful of drunks on your way home that night. Be cautious and alert at all times. Watch everyone. Trust no one. At Old Man's parish, the sky was clear as a boy faced off against his captors once again out in the marsh. This wasn't his first time fighting them, and it surely wasn't going to be the last time. But for now, he wasn't going to dwell on that small fact. He needed to stay focused and alert. He charged at the nearest guard and destroyed the rest of them with an unrivaled fury of punches and kicks. His hair was uncombed, bloodied, and he smelled like a caveman. His clothes had been replaced, but his spirit was one thing they couldn't replace or break. His eyes had hardened considerably despite the short amount of time that had passed. The boy fell to the ground with a cry as his legs were bound to the earth. The head boss came closer to him. The guards had been child's play, but this guy. He was worse than the girl and the guards put together. At least the girl was nice to him sometimes. But this guy was truly evil incarnate. His violet eyes seemed to glow in the darkness as the moon beat down on them. Where is that team of yours, huh? The boy kept his head down and growled deep in his throat. It doesn't matter. You won't get away with this. He snarled as a hollow laugh echoed throughout the clearing. So cliché, and so untrue. You're nothing more than an insignificant genin at the moment. More silence. Tell me, do you think you'll survive when they do come, Naruto? At the inn 2 days later night. It didn't take long for Shikamaru and Shino to suit up. They changed into their regular clothes and watched Asuma lock the doors of the inn and begin walking to Old Man's parish. They melted into the shadows. For half an hour they waited, until they started to follow their sensei's direction. Shino and Shikamaru split as they reached the marshes. Shino took to the trees, only rustling a few leaves before taking an even higher route. Shikamaru stood closer to the ground and stayed near the shadows. Neither of the boys could see their sensei, but they also knew that he was probably nowhere around here by now. Asuma had them scope around the area first yesterday, before they came out here. See anything yet, lazy pineapple? Shikamaru felt his left eye twitch as he looked towards Shino's general direction. I don't know. You're the guy in the trees. When they reached Old Man's parish, they stopped. Shino gave a startled cry as he was knocked out of the trees. A bit of dust covered the spot he landed to as Shikamaru took to the shadows. Shikamaru was 50 meters behind him and spotted a masked figure in the spot Shino fell out of. He threw a kunai at the figure, but the person easily blocked the kunai and sent 2 more back at him. Shikamaru moved out the way as they tore in the bark. Shikamaru spared the bark a sideways glance and gulped. Both kunais had drilled themselves in the bark at least 3/4 in. Shikamaru dodged another kunai before he heard a crackle behind him. He jumped into the trees to avoid the explosion, before he felt cold metal slide across his cheek. Ignoring the blood running down his face, he quickly slipped out a few kunai of his own. He ran towards the figure, tossing both kunai before turning underneath the branch. The figure jumped out of the way and reached for Shikamaru's throat with a gleaming hand. Shikamaru felt 2 little nubs pressing against his back. Thinking quickly, he replaced with himself a log and dropped to the ground floor, melting into the shadows. He was searching for Shino. There were no leaves rustling or faint murmuring, as Shikamaru cursed under his breath. "Shino," he whispered. "Pineapple." Shikamaru felt his left eye twitch again as he turned towards his right. Keeping an eye on the treetops, he stalked his way over to where Shino was laying. His left ankle looked twisted and blood was coming out the side of his ear. If Shino was really knocked out, then who? For someone so smart, you fell for such a basic trap. Metal pressed against his jugular as a feminine voice materialized behind him. Shikamaru heard a small tisk-tisk behind him. Turning his head to the left, he saw a girl dressed in all black with a jade pendant around her neck. In the middle was a broken heart. With Asuma was running through the forest when a twig cracked on his left. He tossed 2 kunai faster than the eye could follow and heard a gasp and a short thud. He couldn't help but pause as another twig cracked. Another kunai, and another thud to the ground. He found 2 bodies on the ground with blood trickling down their chins. Asuma continued on to Old Man's Parish where he found 3 guards at the front gate and 3 on the inside. Asuma's attention was drawn to the back of the house where there was a lot of screaming. From the sounds of it, it was a male screaming too. His fist clenched at the thought of it being his missing student. The screaming suddenly stopped and then a black shadow raced out of the compound. Asuma clocked himself in the trees as the shadow passed him. Making a mental note to check that out later, he knocked out the guards in the front and carefully got rid of the inside ones as well. He searched the entire compound and only had a 1 hallway left. He found scrolls that had been missing since the last war, but not a living soul. It's a little rude to sneak in a person's home unannounced, don't you think? Asuma pulled out a trench knife and used of his wind churka to power it. He looked the man up and down and assumed an offensive stance. His muscles tightened and his jaw remained locked. "I haven't seen you for a long time, Aoi Rokusho." The now identified Aoi smirked and twirled a kunai around his finger. In his other hand was the famed sword of the Thunder God. His Konoha forehead protector was now replaced with an Amigakure symbol. His flak was also missing and instead was replaced by a sleeveless purple jacket that covered his top half, with simple cargo pants for his lower half. His eyes stared coldly at Asuma, who brought out a second trench knife. "I would be lying if I said it was nice to see you again, Asuma." "What are you doing here?" Aoi chuckled as he inched his way closer. "I could ask you the same thing, but if you must know, I'm doing a little testing, if you will. The results are quite fantastic." They were less than 3 meters away. "What kind of testing?" Aoi continued on as if Asuma hadn't spoken. "Your little genin, Naruto, was it? He made for the perfect test subject. Jinchuriki are much more resilient than your average citizen though, so that could be why." Asuma gritted his teeth as Aoi laughed his head off. He lunged at Asuma, aiming for a high kick to his head, but was blocked and nearly got his leg twisted. He began doing hand signs, getting space between them, calling out, "Fire release. Great fireball technique." "Are you crazy?" Asuma shined to the roof and immediately found himself surrounded by 5 guards, not including Aoi. Asuma ducked under one guard and pushed him into Aoi. A dark figure appeared where the guard previous stood and attacked Asuma with a cry. He felt himself get kicked in the gut before something sharp flew past his cheek. He flipped away from the boy and blocked an attack with a trench knife. "I'll let you two get reacquainted for a moment, before our little friend go meets his friends." Aoi gave another laugh as he disappeared again, taking the remaining guards with him. The scratched Konoha band shinned in the moonlight. "Naruto! Naruto, can you hear me?" Another strike. Asuma kicked the boy off the roof and chased him into the trees. Crystal release. Crying wolf. A howl could be heard throughout the forest as fangs sunk their teeth into Asuma's arm. He was tossed into a tree and felt the bark protesting. He shined past Naruto and punched him in the gut, knocking the breath out of him for a few moments. Empty and cold azure eyes stared back at Asuma as he gripped the boy's shoulders. "Snap out of it, Naruto. Fight back." The only response was narrowed eyes. Naruto replaced himself with a nearby log and placed distance between himself and Asuma. He whipped out the sword of the Thunder God and made a downward slash with it, causing a bolt of lightning to come off. Naruto began attacking Asuma again, this time going with a thrust which was easily blocked. Please! He managed to choke out. Naruto reached out and gripped Asuma's arm. Sensei, please! Fight it, Naruto. I believe in you. Finish him. Now. Asuma's eyes widened as Naruto's eyes hardened again, and his assault was renewed with vigor. Crystal release. Crying wolf. Asuma dodged the wolf's bite this time, and slid past Naruto and knocked him out with a chop to the neck. Aoi let out an angered cry from above and attacked Asuma with a downward swipe. Asuma swiped at his side and a gash immediately started flowing. Aoi cried out from pain and pulled back. Damn you, Asuma! Aoi tightened his fist and summoned the other guards. Kill him and retrieve the boy alive. Go! Asuma threw down a smoke bomb, quickly killed the guards in the confusion, and hoisted Naruto on his shoulder. It was time to get the others and get out of here. Back to Shikamaru and Shino. I'm very disappointed, Mr. Pineapple. Whipping out a kunai, Shikamaru stabbed the girl in the kidney. There was a yelp before Shikamaru found himself flying past trees and only stopping when his back connected with a bark. I don't know what I'm going to do with you, Mr. Pineapple. The girl gripped his shirt and brought the kunai across his throat, a trickle flowing down his throat. The girl's head whipped around and she backed away in caution. She began shaking her head, as if she was trying to get a voice out of her head, leaving Shikamaru dazed and bleeding on the floor. The girl yelped again as a flash of smoke covered the area. Shikamaru applied pressure to his throat as he was lifted off the ground. He felt himself slung over a shoulder. He ripped a piece of his shift off and held the cloth in place and tried to hold in his grunts of pain as he lost consciousness. A week later, blue eyes opened to see a ceiling staring back at him. The sun kissed his face and he had to raise a hand to protect his eyes from the sudden light. A door creaked open and for a second, fear was spreading in his veins like a wildfire. His heart clenched as the door creaked wider. His frame relaxed as a pineapple-shaped head popped in. How you feeling, Naruto? Naruto took a sip of the soup Shikamaru had given him and stared at his own reflection. His hair was the same color, but there weren't any new scars left on his face. His eyes, however, were different. They were still a cerulean blue, but there was splotches of red mixed in there. He muttered a quiet fine to Shikamaru and laid back down on the bed. Asuma-sensei said he'll stop by to check on you later. Shino's still at work, so he'll check in later. Naruto nodded. Shikamaru signed as he finished his version of the report. It's nice to see you again, Naruto. Asuma did visit later that night and helped Naruto redress his bandages. He hissed as the ointment was reapplied. I managed to suppress the seal they used on you, Naruto. When we return to Konoha in about a week, we'll have the Hokage check it, all right? Naruto nodded. I felt so cold, Sensei. He gripped his sheets tightly, his knuckles turning white. Thank you, Asuma-sensei. When you're ready to talk about it, you always have your team. For the next days, Naruto and his teammates recovered from the battle and began training again after returning from work. Naruto worked with Asuma as his assistant at the hotel. Physically, most of their wounds were healed. Shino's left ankle still needed a few more weeks. He was working on improving his speed regardless, but that wasn't helping him much. Naruto found himself mediating on the ceiling one evening, when a knock alerted him. He turned to see Shino wave him over. He raised an eyebrow but dropped down nonetheless. What is it, Shino? Shikamaru needs your help downstairs. Naruto nodded and pretended he was stretching, when he kicked Shino in the ribs. A loud groan was heard before Shino changed into Aoi in a puff of smoke. How did you know it wasn't Shino? No one on the team calls Shikamaru Shikamaru. He's known as Lazy Pineapple or Pineapple Head. Duh. Somewhere, a certain lazy genius sneezed. Doesn't matter. I'm taking back what's rightfully mine, you brat. Now hand over the sword of Thunder God. Come back with me, and no one else dies. At least not painfully. Aoi moved to strike Naruto with his kunai when he realized that he couldn't move. He turned his head to see Shikamaru controlling his movements, while Naruto was twirling a kunai around his finger. He casually walked over to Aoi and tied him, taking his time whistling a happy. Aoi struggled in his bonds, but suddenly felt light-headed. It's quite sad. For a guy so smart, you fell for such a basic plan. Naruto began. Aoi slumped to the ground and finally noticed the little beetles that were making a swarm around him. Honestly, I'm ashamed to say that I was kidnapped and tortured by you. Naruto signed as he made room for Asuma. Asuma quickly sealed off Aoi's churka and bounded his arms together. You're lucky Hokage-sama wanted us to bring any enemies alive. Despite being beaten, Aoi still sneered. Please Asuma. Your precious father wants to use the seals we've created because of the connection with him. Asuma shrugged his shoulders as he hauled him up. Well, it doesn't matter, I suppose. You're wanted for treason already. I'm sure the council will add some more to that list as well. Boys, get ready, we're leaving now. Sir, yes, sir. Later that night, Naruto and Asuma were guarding Aoi that first night, and Shino and Shikamaru were knocked out by the firewood. Asuma got up and left to take off his business, leaving Naruto with Aoi. Tell me, Naruto, do you really think they'll accept you for being a monster? Naruto poked at the fire and ignored Aoi's comment, stirring the wood instead. I gave you a purpose in life. I can show you the full potential of your ability. Aoi felt metal tickle his throat. I already have a purpose in life. You are nothing more than a bad memory. Aoi gulped in fear as Naruto's eyes unconsciously bled red. An explosion drew his attention away from Aoi and toward the trees. Shino and Shikamaru were awake and on their feet moments later. Naruto motioned Shino to stay close to Aoi as he took to the trees. Shikamaru placed himself towards the middle of the camp and slipped 3 kunai from his pouch. He was starting to run low, but hopefully he would be fine for now. Another explosion took place, this time on the other side of the camp. Shino's calm voice ranged throughout the camp. My bugs are only detecting one person beside Asuma-sensei and Naruto. The person is obviously here for Aoi. Shikamaru nodded as a black figure sped towards him. Shino, guard Aoi. I'll take care of her. He threw the first kunai missed and followed up immediately with his second and third. He went in for close range and avoided a downward strike and launched a kick of his own to the girl's bandaged side. Shikamaru noted that the wound had several stitches, some old, some new. The wound reopened slightly and the girl hastily gripped the side with one hand. The stitches were done poorly and the wound was probably infected. Naruto came bursting out of the trees and had aimed a crystal ball at the girl's head. Shikamaru immediately fell back and watched the girl catch the ball, before tossing it back to Naruto, who dodged it as it exploded next to his ear. Shikamaru quickly began making hand signs as the girl turned back to him. Running. She started doing hand signs of her own, calling out her move. Crystal release. Jade crystal blade. A purple blade resembling a tanto formed on both arms. Shikamaru's eyes widened at the name of the technique, but immediately refocused. Shadow technique. Shadow neck binding. A shadow rushed toward the girl, which she merely step-sided but was pulled back by Naruto's crystal wolf. Half of Naruto's face was bloody, with a little blood also coming out of his ear. The wolf dug into the girl's arm, wringing her in place while Shikamaru quickly recast his jutsu. The girl managed to choke out a gasp as she felt the shadow creeping up her throat. She fell to her knees, and as Naruto stepped closer to bind her arms, she dropped a flash bomb, forcing everyone in the clearing to cover their eyes. They heard shuffling indicating a brief struggle, and when the light faded the girl was missing. Team 8 turned toward where Aoi was and his throat had been slit. His eyes were wide in horror. At least that's what they thought until a puff of smoke revealed it was a clone. Asuma stepped out of the trees holding up a scroll. Shikamaru glared at his sensei, who merely whistled a happy tune. Were you just going to stand there the whole time? Asuma looked offended. I won't always be here with you guys, Shikamaru. Think of this as a kick-start to independence. All 3 boys felt their eyes twitch in annoyance as Asuma held up the scroll. Either way, we've still got the bastard. 2 days later, Konoha. The trip back to Konoha was relatively eventful. The girl attacked them 2 more times, forcing Asuma to step in and drive her off. The moment the boys reached the gates, they fell to the ground and started kissing it. Shikamaru even hugged one of the guards. Asuma cleared his throat and they halted. I think you guys are forgetting something. Naruto waved at him and placed his arms behind his back. Can't we meet Hokage tomorrow? Sorry boys, it's standard protocol. Better get used to it now. They took the fast way to get to the Hokage's office, and when his door finally did open, Might Guy and his little genin stepped out. Asuma and Guy chatted for a few moments. However, their genin stayed quiet. Shikamaru was closing his eyes when he felt a poke. Well, it was really more like a kick. Come on, let's get this over with. Hokage-sama, our reports have already been completed. Good, good. I understand that your group was separated before you reached your target. They nodded, and that Naruto was captured and subjected to torture. Naruto's head dipped at this, but they all nodded again. You boys did a nice job overall. I want you three to take a rest for a while and have a few weeks of therapy as well. Especially you, Naruto. Also, I'm ordering Inoichi to have a look in your mind. Is that all right? Naruto's sweat dropped. I have to go through it whether or not I want to anyways. So why ask if it's all right with me? He thought. He nodded again. I have a seal master coming tomorrow morning to remove the seal on your back as well. For now, please deal with it for one more night. Asuma, the scroll please. Asuma handed him the scroll containing Aoi and another holding the sword of the Thunder God. Shino turned to the others and whispered, "Where did he get that from?" They shrugged their shoulders. Over the next few days, I would like to speak to you three individually, starting with Naruto in the morning. Then I would like to speak with Shino and Shikamaru. All right? Dismissed. The three of them left the room in a puff of smoke, happy to fall asleep in their beds. Asuma turned towards his father and lit a smoke. You see the way Naruto's eye color changed? He asked. Sarutobi nodded. You don't think they could have tampered with his other seal, do you? They must have if his eyes have bled like that. That's why I have summoned Jiraiya. I wasn't about to remove one seal without getting the other one checked first. Asuma nodded. What are you going to do with him? He pointed to the scroll holding Aoi. I'm sending him to be dealt with by Ibiki and Enko. Then he'll be executed. Asuma nodded. Is that all? He asked. Asuma nodded. You're dismissed then. Yes, sir. Konoha. Next morning, Naruto was sitting in the Hokage's office, looking everywhere but at the Hokage himself. A sense of unease swelled in his stomach. He chose to look at the pictures decorating the walls and gulped. The Hokage cleared his throat, settling his book aside. The Hokage walked around his desk, arms crossed as he leaned against it, a sign erupting from his lips. He rubbed his beard and placed one hand firmly on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto flinched as if he had been struck. Naruto dash.
I'm sorry.
Naruto was on his knees kowtowing to the Hokage quietly. The Hokage shook his head, kneeling next to the boy. He gently pried the boy from the floor, holding his shoulders in his arms firmly. Naruto avoided eye contact and kept his head to the ground. I wasn't strong enough. I nearly failed this mission, and for that I accept any form of punishment. Sarutobi's sweat dropped.
Naruto-kun.
Let me finish a sentence before you start speaking nonsense. Your death certainly threw a wrench in your plans for your team, but you didn't cause your mission to nearly fail. That was Aoi's fault, not your own. Sarutobi hushed Naruto again before he could open his mouth. And what he did is unacceptable. Inoichi and Ibiki will be here shortly. Unlike other interrogations, yours will be here since this is a special case. Nonetheless, when it comes to your bloodline dash, he said, trailing off as the doors opened. The old man leaned back against the table, taking a whiff of his pipe. We'll continue this later. Ibiki Inoichi, you may begin when you're ready. Naruto's sweat dropped. He really didn't have a say in this, did he? His eyes widened when he felt his arms being bound to the chair. He tried struggling against the invisible bonds and let out a breath when they tightened. He watched as Inoichi walked behind him, and his back went rigid. Cold hands gripped his head, keeping his head immobile. His body starting convulsing, and a scream climbed its way up his throat, and upon its release, it sounded inhuman and more like a feral growl. Inoichi grunted, yet held firm as he pushed past the boy's mind defenses. Sizzling skin wafted through his nostrils. Naruto's head was bleeding from a new wound. Chains rattled against any slight sound as he was dragged back to his cell. A cruel laugh ringed in his ears as a light touch of a blade nicked Naruto's cheek. The blood flowed down his cheek, slowing at a micro rate. Naruto's vision was blurring and fading fast. I can make the pain go away. Tell me about your mission. Go to hell. Inoichi watched another scene move in front of him. Naruto was in chains, looking at something with such intensity that Inoichi was sure there would a hole in that spot. He rattled his chains, pulling against them, trying to get away from the approaching shadows. He made a deep growling in the back of his throat, his eyes bleeding red as his form was enveloped by a shadowy figure. Inoichi moved around to see the figure, but the memory itself was blurry and unfocused. Naruto was momentarily released from his chains. He was turned away and held down by 3 other men. His growling increased and even intensified as the blurred figure leaned over, his palm brushing against Naruto's neck and began pressing against the center. Naruto's eye widened, losing most of the red tint in his eyes, a scream bubbling from his throat. Creepy laughter soon drowned it out. Let's see how long you last against my seal, Naruto-kun. The voice had a familiar twinge to it, but Inoichi couldn't put his finger on it. Then his eyes widened. Couldn't be. Or could it? Naruto exploded with a burst of churka and lunged at the man, who merely raised a hand. Naruto crumbled to his knees, holding his head in his hands. His eyes were screw shut, his face painted in pain, yet when he opened his eyes, his face was transformed into a calm facade. His eyes had become a dull blue, empty and cold. He kept his eyes low and his demeanor seemed to change completely. How can I be of assistance, master? The man started laughing uncontrollably as a new figure stepped forward. He turned to the newcomer, his smile gleaming in the moonlight. See how even the most rebellious of spirits eventually crumbles? Give me a report on the seal's progress every so often. It isn't perfected yet, so there may be times where his true self comes back. You will need to tighten the seal, but doing so could cause him to become wilder as well. Aoi snickered to himself, nodding while running a hand through his hair and smirked down at Naruto. You're nothing more than a puppet, huh? Inoichi pulled out of Naruto's memories after looking around a little more, but he had enough to come to a conclusion. I suspect that Snake put the seal on himself. I think you should let Kakashi take a look at the seal if Jiraiya-sama isn't back soon. If the seal is tampered in any way, it'll get worse for Naruto in the end. The Hokage suspected as much. Ibiki moved next to the boy, holding his shoulders and looked in glassy eyes. He was struggling in his bonds earlier. I was afraid I would have to restrain him even more. He placed a hand on Naruto's forehead and signed. He moved his hands over Naruto's temples and entered his mind as Inoichi took a seat next to the Hokage. Ibiki found Naruto swimming in his mindscape, just floating in the water with no direction at all. Naruto, were you conscious while the seal was active? Naruto signed and glanced at Ibiki from the corner of his mind. Sometimes, but I was mostly surrounded in complete darkness. Naruto didn't say anything else, so Ibiki took the chance to inspect Naruto's mind. The walls were still intact with the foundation solid. As his glaze went up, he noticed the cracks get much deeper and bigger, so he wasn't completely unaffected, Ibiki thought. Ibiki tried looking much farther in his mindscape when Naruto cried out behind him. Ibiki dodged a sloppy throw from Naruto's kunai and landed some feet away. His eyes narrowed as Naruto's eyes locked on his eyes with an empty glaze and eyes tinting red. He snarled as Ibiki put his hands up in defense. Naruto, don't let the seal control you. Naruto threw his head back and pulled another kunai from the air and started running towards Ibiki. All the same, you're all the same, he screeched. I'll kill you. I'll kill you all. Ibiki easily dodged any attacks Naruto threw at him, but the sudden crystallizing of his legs was new for him. Still, he parried Naruto's attacks and pulled his arm behind his back and held him against the water gently. All same. Naruto was repeating it like a mantra now, his mind overrun by the seal temporarily. Ibiki pulled out of Naruto's mind and stepped away as Naruto broke one of his arms free, before Ibiki knocked him out with a swift punch. Sarutobi leaped out of his chair as the boy started convulsing and writhing on the floor, blood spilling from his nose. What the hell? Later that day, opening his eyes, Naruto found himself staring back at the Hokage. A mixture of saliva and blood dripped down his chin, which he hastily removed. He tried lifting his head, but couldn't find the energy to do so. He reached a hand to the back of his head and hissed, pulling away. Sarutobi's brows furrowed and he moved to help the boy sit up. "Naruto," he called softly as to not startle the boy. Naruto cleared his throat and tried to speak. His throat felt raw and burnt out. A wave of pain and nausea settled over him. The overwhelming stench of anesthetic and cleaning supplies wafted through his nostrils. Leaning against the pillow, he tried speaking once again. "What happened to me?" His voice was no louder than a whisper. The Hokage strained to hear the boy. Sarutobi glanced out the window, taking a few steps away from the boy lying in the bed. "Tell me, Naruto, what do you remember during your time in captivity?" An empty look entered his eyes. "Lots of pain, lots of darkness, and Naruto's face flushed as he ducked his head, the tips of his ears a light pink. Sarutobi found this amusing yet puzzling. "A girl," he finished softly. Realization dawned on Sarutobi. "Was she cute?" Naruto choked on his saliva. "That's the first thing he asks," he thought, shaking his head. "What happened between you two?" Naruto took a second to think and shook his head. "I don't remember. Everything's foggy." Sarutobi's eyes narrowed. "Then how do you remember a girl?" Naruto's ears blushed a bright red. Her voice was soothing and made the pain go away. He trailed off. Before Sarutobi could press any further, a knock was heard. Before he could tell the person to go away, the door was swung open. Sarutobi clenched his fists by his side as Asuma walked his way across the room. Asuma gave his father a serious look, immediately dragging him away from the confused boy, leaving him alone. "You were supposed to tell me when you wanted to question Naruto. What the hell happened back there?" Asuma half-whispered as they walked back to the Hokage's tower. Sarutobi signed. "I sent another pigeon for Jiraiya. The seal is getting worse." "Sarutobi, what happened?" The old man held up his hand, silencing Asuma with a wave of his hand. "You will address me as your dash. Answer my question, old man." Asuma easily dodged a kunai to the forehead and signed, taking a seat. Naruto submitted to the seal's control momentarily. When Ibiki entered his mind, the seal activated. Whoever made it had the intention on making Naruto lose his memories to protect themselves. The seal then proceeded to attack Naruto. Sarutobi held up his hand, keeping Asuma quiet. "I managed to cut off the connection between Naruto's brain and the seal. He suffered some internal damage which will take some time to heal. The bastard was also good at preventing Minato's seal from mostly interfering. The quicker Jiraiya gets here, the better. When he gets here, I want him to spend some time with Naruto. Also, I'm removing Naruto from the field for a while and sending him to see a specialist. The last thing we need is an unstable ninja on the battlefield, suddenly going crazy and destroying everything in his path." "You think Naruto's unstable?" Sarutobi shook his head. "No, he's been through quite an ordeal and needs some time off. Maybe your whole team needs to be evaluated. They all had some experience on this mission. They may be ninjas, but they are still children. I've seen and dealt with too many unstable ninjas in my time." Asuma nodded slowly. "Understood." Dismissed. The next week, Naruto was walking down a road, glancing at all the merchandise the merchants were displaying. He pulled out his wallet and brought a few bags of fruit. He traveled a little further down and purchased a bag of beans and potatoes. Ever since Wave, he was trying to improve his diet a little at a time at Asuma's insistence. For a while, Shikamaru had come over to his place and taught him a few simple dishes to help him start out. His favorite dish was still ramen, but he accepted other dishes as well. He stopped at one stand, surveying the herbs displayed. His mind went briefly to Haku. How was he faring? When they traveled to Wave that last time, Naruto took a day or so to figure out what happened to Haku, but no one had seen him since Naruto's first departure. Naruto looked at some of the herbs and brought a few. They had some medical properties, and he thought the team's current resident medic Shino would appreciate it. Come to think about it, he hasn't seen either Shikamaru or Shino for a while. He smiled as a thought in his mind. He quickly finished his grocery shopping and dropped the bags on his kitchen table and took to the roofs. Feeling the wind blow through his hair, Naruto first stopped by Shikamaru's house. He found Shikamaru laying against a tree with his eyes closed and head bowed. Naruto gently stirred the lazy pineapple from his slumber and whispered his plan. Shikamaru groggily agreed and took the offered hand to stand up. They split up and Naruto found Shino training in their training ground, with a few scrapes and scratches. Naruto told Shino his idea and Shino seemed to smile under his hood and finished up his training session, before following Naruto around. They passed by Asuma on his daily walk and stopped for a moment, staring at his back as they watched him by a bouquet of flowers. They glanced at each other, shrugged their shoulders and kept on running. Later that day, Naruto was putting the finishing touches on the cake when the doorbell rang. He threw the apron into his room and moved Shino towards the door while he ran to the bathroom, making sure his face was devoid of any flour. Shikamaru pushed him out the bathroom a moment later. Naruto fixed his clothes and greeted his guests. He smiled as all the genin walked in, suspiciously looking for any traps or surprises. "Welcome everyone. Please come in." "No, this isn't a trick." Dressed in black slacks, Naruto straightened his orange t-shirt and adjusted his orange bowl-style hat. His hands were stuffed in his pockets, which he removed to usher people in. He took Hinata's and Ino's arms and escorted them, while Shino literally pushed Sasuke and Kiba through the door. Once everyone was in the room, Naruto had Shikamaru hand everyone a drink. "On the behalf of Team 8, I would like to congratulate all of us for a job well done. We have graduated from the academy and become full-fledged ninjas. The road ahead is steep and dangerous. We will be beaten and battered at first, but soon we will become jonin like our senseis. I wish us all luck at reaching our dreams together and with the support of everyone here. May the will of fire shine brightly in all of us." Naruto raised his glass as everyone clapped. Shino took a swing of his drink, shaking his head. "You're dramatic as always, Naruto." Naruto scratched the back of his head and laughed as he stepped down from his table. The genin socialized and caught up with each other. Everyone was sitting around Naruto's living room, laughing and talking when Sakura asked a question, gaining Naruto's attention. "Naruto, where have you been for the past week?" Everyone quieted down, while Naruto's smile grew tighter. Shikamaru and Shino tried not to make their interest obvious, but they failed. Naruto pulled on his hat and removed it from his head, tossing it in his lap. "I've trained with Yamanaka-san, Sakura-chan." Ino's ears perked up. "What kind of training?" Naruto shook his head. "Nothing much, just a few things here and there. I think it's getting late, everyone. Team 8 has a mission in the morning, and our sensei will be quite angry if we are late." Shino and Shikamaru nodded and helped Naruto clean up the mess later. All three were in the kitchen, drinking away. "How's the training going?" Naruto let his head fall in his hands and shook his head. "Fine, but tiring." Shino pushed further. "And the dreams?" "Fine." Naruto snapped. Shino didn't push any further and nodded. Naruto threw his rag across the room. "They're not getting worse, but sometimes I just think about the mission over and over. Always words are constantly in my head. Am a puppet? Or do I have a will of my own? Maybe, I don't even know sometimes." Naruto grabbed his head and shook it. He crumbled to his knees and sobbed softly. Either Shino or Shikamaru approached him, instead keeping their distance for a moment. When the sobs quietened, Shikamaru took a sip of his glass. "That mission was hard on all of us, Naruto. Aoi did make you turn into a little puppet during your time with him. But your desire to protect your friends and family made you overcome that. Your ability to rebel against the seal all the time proves that. You'll only be a puppet if you let Aoi win." Shino nodded. Naruto wiped his eyes and smiled brightly at his teammates. "Thanks, Shika. You too, Shino. I'll see you tomorrow." "I was serious about that mission." Naruto laughed as Shikamaru groaned. Extra. 1.5 months later. Shikamaru's house. Shikamaru was staring at the clouds on top of his roof. His mind, however, wasn't relaxed like normal. No, the inside of his mind was chaotic and turbulent. But he needed this downtime. He opened his eyes at the sound of shuffling foot settling next to him. His mother's hair was blowing in the summer breeze, little bits of flower adorning her face. She ruffled his hair for a moment, glazing at the clouds with him. "How's your training?" She wasn't looking at him, but he glanced at her. "Fine. Naruto came back yesterday. He's staying with us permanently this time. Felt nice having everyone together again. Shino learned a few new techniques from his family as well. And I've gotten better at making strategies, but what? I feel like I don't do enough. Most of the heavy fighting is done between Naruto and Shino. I just do the strategy. It's weirdly troublesome." Yashido laughed. Doubt can be good and bad. It reminds someone that they have room for improvement. It may make a person question their abilities, but it reminds one that they are human. Strategy is just as important as physical strength. To be in a team means to be able to divide responsibilities. Shino's like the medic of your group, Naruto's the heavy hitter, and you are the strategist of the group. What's wrong with that? She finally glanced at Shikamaru, smiling gently. If a team was purely based on one element, they wouldn't survive long on the battlefield, would they? Shikamaru shook his head. The two shared a moment of silence, when Shikamaru cleared his throat and brushed the dirt off his pants. "Thanks for the talk, Mom." Yashido merely stood on her feet, smacking Shikamaru on the back of the head. "You're welcome. Now go clean your room. And when you're done, go to the market and pick up my dry clean. When that's done, go wake up your father and tell him dinner's ready. Don't forget to clean the dishes afterwards," she said, walking away, wiping her face with a rag. Shikamaru groaned, scratching the back of his head. Troublesome woman.